If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon. Link is in the description.
Chapter 21. Sunlight Experience +1. At this moment, Syd felt as if he could manipulate the sunlight overhead, gathering it together. The gentle golden sunlight shone down on Carl Panna and the others, engulfing everything. The moment the sunlight, carrying a special power, hit them, screams erupted continuously. Kirill and the others saw that the 5 people enveloped in sunlight, whether it was Carl Panna or the other 4 men, began to disintegrate everything on them, whether it was flesh or clothing. Everything turned into particles, which then dispersed again, returning to nothingness. This power. Carl Panna, who could maintain a part of her consciousness, stared with her disintegrating eyeballs, blankly watching the indifferent young man not far away. You're not a Class 2 mutant," she murmured. Omega. The legendary pinnacle of mutants, signifying humanity's ultimate threat, possessing the power that humans truly fear. The name surfaced in her mind. She opened her mouth, unwilling to say something, but before she could speak again, her entire being vanished into the dazzling sunlight. The other 4, faces full of horror, whether it was Hero or Stefan, felt incredible. What kind of power is this? This Kevin, wasn't he a Class 2 mutant? Now, this power seems far beyond what Carl Panna could comprehend. Omega mutant? How could such mutants be here? We were so arrogant in front of a mutant of this caliber. And the others were full of fear. It turns out that it's them who would die with just a gesture. Why not reveal his identity earlier? If he had, they wouldn't have been so arrogant. Why? In the utmost reluctance and fear, they too followed suit, instantly turning into particles and returning to nothingness. Ultimate threat. Hearing Carl Panna's last words, Kirill and the 2 nearby, confusion flashed in their eyes. Although they did not understand the term, they felt it was profoundly impressive. Was Syd in possession of such a terrifying power? They wondered, confused. However, there was no longer any doubt, what they witnessed had already shocked them. As the sunlight faded, what appeared before their eyes was a ground missing a thick layer. As if it had been erased, along with those 5 people, as if they had never existed. Such a terrifying power. At this moment, their hearts were both shocked and fearful. Looking at the young man not far away, they collectively took a step back. They were afraid, and unsure, wondering if getting too close might cause them to disappear as well, or if the other's mutant ability went out of control. So, at this moment, even though they didn't want to think this way, they couldn't help but feel fear and repulsion towards the young man. If humans started ostracizing mutants, then they would ostracize Syd. An outlier among outliers, special among the special. Possessing such a power, they felt fear. At this point, Syd was not paying attention to them but was feeling his own body. Feeling the light energy within him nearly depleted, he couldn't help but feel helpless. It was just half a room's area, and yet it had consumed all the energy in his body. Moreover, this was with the assistance of sunlight, if it were at night. Enhancing the energy within me is a long way to go. Syd shook his head. Ignoring the huge energy consumption, the power of sunlight all around truly shocked him. For the ones that want to see how it looks like, search Marokkair, that's the OG name of the attack. The essence of this ability was atomic disintegration. And then continuing to disintegrate until everything was reduced to nothingness. One could say this ability directly disrupted the balance because it seemed to permanently erase a portion of matter, exceeding common sense. Syd knew, this ability indeed could be classified as Omega-level power. He stretched out his right hand, the slightly recovered light energy within him was soon exhausted, then a streak of light emerged from his hand. Perhaps due to the nature of the light energy, this light carried a golden hue, reminiscent of sunlight. Indeed, even without fully deploying sunlight all around, I can still use some of its power. This light indeed carried the power to reduce everything to nothingness. He had felt a slight change in his body before, he was not mistaken. Perhaps there has been a change in the genes inside me. With this guess, Syd looked at the light that disappeared in an instant, and smiled wryly. With the current thirsty state inside his body, thinking about deploying sunlight all around without the aid of sunlight, he should first find a way to increase his internal energy. Speaking of energy, with the emergence of sunlight all around, there was also a bit more energy inside him, but it was barely better than nothing. As he pondered, Kirill hesitated for a while before daring to speak to him. "Are you all right?" Kirill's voice faintly carried a hint of fear. Syd shook his head, indicating he was fine. The atmosphere on the scene suddenly became tense. Kirill and the others felt a bit awkward, wanting to change the mood, but were unable to. Even Heidi, at this moment, felt fear towards the power possessed by the young man in front of her. Naturally, it was impossible for them to return to their previous attitude. After a while, Kirill hesitantly asked, "Is that your mutant ability?" Syd thought for a moment, then nodded. The three of them inhaled sharply. That's too terrifying, isn't it? And is this your fourth ability?" Kirill inhaled a breath of cold air, looking at Syd as if he was a freak. Heidi and Mark felt the same, both shocked and envious. Then, Kirill thought of something and said anxiously, "Hey man, I think we need to leave. When you just deployed that ability, it was like a golden searchlight was shining on us. If we don't leave now." Kirill gestured exaggeratedly. Syd knew, the commotion was indeed a bit much. When sunlight all around was deployed, it wasn't as calm as it seemed. The external sunlight focused together, making this area incredibly bright, while other places even dimmed a bit. It was like signaling to others that there was a problem here, looking very conspicuous. The group quickly gathered their belongings and evacuated the area. Sure enough, it wasn't long before footsteps and voices approached this place, seemingly people coming to investigate. On the way, Mark hesitated for a moment, then said, "Syd, you just killed those people from the underground organization, aren't you afraid of trouble? I heard they are numerous and their leader is a very powerful mutant." Syd shook his head, indicating he wasn't concerned. He truly didn't care, having already offended America's department, now offending another underground organization didn't seem like a big deal. As the saying goes, the more lice, the less itch. He would worry about it when people from the underground organization came looking. Thinking this, Syd couldn't help but think of that research base and the people hunting him. Compared to before, he now had a bit more confidence. When they reached a crossroads, Syd suddenly stopped. "This is where we part ways." "What?" The three were initially startled, opened their mouths, but ultimately said nothing, nodding in agreement one after another. Whether it was Syd or them, after the recent events, they could no longer go back to how it was at the beginning. After bidding each other to take care, the three watched the mysterious young man's figure walk away. "All right, stop looking. What, can't bear to part?" Heidi slapped Kirill's shoulder, her face playful. "No, I was thinking, what is the ultimate threat?" Heidi and the others were also startled, recalling Carl Pena's last words. "We'll find out when we ask around," Mark laughed. Heidi agreed. "Yes, we'll ask others when the time comes," Kirill nodded, smiling. As they went their separate ways, the abnormal sunlight event in this area was also posted online, sparking a discussion. Chapter 22. The internet was abuzz with discussions. "What's this? My god, what's happened to the sunlight in this place? Why does it look so strange? Is this an alien invasion or is a military base testing new weapons? Could it be a mutant's superpower? No way, that's sunlight. Could a mutant really control that?" Netizens were chattering, making all sorts of wild guesses. After parting with Kirill and the others, Syd walked alone through a secluded alley, coughing a few times into his hand. While looking for a new place to stay, he took the opportunity to practice various abilities. Black Particle Experience +1. Spatial Transfer Experience +1. Rebound Shield Experience +1. Rebound Shield Experience +1. After a while, he opened his panel with a thought. Name, Syd Castell. Age, 16, remaining lifespan, 36 days. Mutant abilities, Mimicry, Energy Absorption. Current Mimic, Orochi, Title, Sun God, Will of the Earth. Unlock Progress 79%. Abilities, Spatial Transfer, 39/500, Level 2. Black Particles, 34/500, Level 2. Rebound Shield, 7/500, Level 2. Divine Finger, 3/500, Level 2. Sunlight All Around, 1/100, Level 1. Soul Extraction, 0/100, Level 1. Spiritual Light Column, 0/100, Level 1, unlocked. Energy Points, 413. Seeing his estimated remaining lifespan, Syd shook his head and sighed softly. Facing a body full of ailments, even his current light energy seemed somewhat inadequate, or perhaps not powerful enough. His first thought was about enhancing the light energy within him. His gaze swept over the panel, focusing on the level 2 abilities, his brow furrowing slightly. Leveling up from 2 to 3 took too long, it might be better to upgrade the remaining level 1 abilities to level 2 first. Having sufficient energy inside would also allow him to truly harness the power of sunlight all around. Although sunlight all around was only at level 1, Syd felt that he hadn't reached its limit when he used it before. The lack of energy in his body prevented it from being fully unleashed. If he had enough energy, sunlight all around might be several times stronger than before. The problem again came back to the energy within him. Syd glanced at spiritual light column and soul extraction. Spiritual light column could be practiced in a secluded place, but as for soul extraction, Syd stroked his chin, quickly coming up with a method. Humans shouldn't be used lightly for practice, but what about animals? Just buy a small animal, then use soul extraction in and out, thus, he could complete the upgrade for soul extraction. However, it seems I don't even have the money to buy a hamster, Syd mused, somewhat troubled. But he didn't stay troubled for long, quickly thinking of a solution. Half an hour later, he emerged from a dark alley, his hand now holding over $500. Having just performed a robbery for the sake of charity, Syd smiled, praising, "Thank God for the welfare money from America, today is another beautiful day. Free America, ah, happy every day." With the money, Syd, wearing a hat and mask, ran to the market and bought a red-eyed white rabbit. Finding a secluded, unoccupied place, Syd set the docile rabbit down on the ground, then extended his right hand. Soul extraction. Soul extraction experience +1. His palm reached towards the rabbit, and then a purple-white glow appeared, pulling a purple-white orb of light from within the rabbit. The moment the purple-white orb was extracted, the rabbit's eyes immediately became dull, like a spiritless puppet. Syd looked at the orb in his hand with astonishment. The outer layer of the orb was light purple, while the inside was blazing white. And within the white orb, a ghostly rabbit appeared. "Is this the soul?" Syd's eyes widened in surprise, then he studied the rabbit's soul for a moment. He discovered not only was the soul ethereal and transparent, its eyes were dull, appearing to lack much intelligence. "I wonder if human souls are any different?" Syd pondered. Looking at the orb before him, he felt he could easily crush this energy orb. But then, the rabbit's soul would probably be annihilated as well. Syd tried stuffing the rabbit's soul back into its body, a flash of purple light, and the rabbit's soul returned to its body. Then, he began the cruel process of extracting and reinserting. Soul extraction experience +1. Soul extraction experience +1. Soul extraction experience +1. Soul extraction experience +1. Ability, Soul extraction, 77/100, level 1. When night fell and there was no sunlight to replenish his energy, Syd reluctantly lowered his hand. By then, the little white rabbit was completely dazed, seemingly broken. "Looks like I'll have to wait until tomorrow to level up." After sighing, he picked up the rabbit and headed for the shelter he had found. Along the way, he glanced at the remaining 400+ energy points and subconsciously looked at the unlock progress. "I wonder what the next ability to awaken will be. Levitation flight maybe." Thinking of flying, he couldn't help but think of Superman and his fellow countrymen. Walking slowly and all, it really wasn't as convenient as flying. Moreover, the momentum brought by flying was not comparable to standing on the ground. Syd was somewhat expectant. Then, he allocated all the remaining energy points to the unlock progress. Unfortunately, no change. Looking at the stubborn, still 79% data, Syd frowned slightly. "Never mind, we'll see tomorrow." He randomly picked a cheap hotel and checked in with the little white rabbit. Day and night. Photon energy +1. Photon energy +1. While basking in the sunlight in the room, Syd continued to reach for the little white rabbit. Soul extraction experience +1. Soul extraction experience +1. After a while, a notification sounded. Ability, Soul extraction, 0/500, level 2. Feeling a significant increase in energy within him, Syd's sense of security greatly improved. Now, with the energy inside him, he could use a level 1 ability perhaps over 70 times, and even a level 2 ability around 30 times. Just one more left, I should be able to enhance it today too. Syd's gaze moved to the spiritual light column. He checked out of the hotel and headed for the secluded spot he had found before. Just as he was halfway there, his expression suddenly changed slightly, and he glanced furtively at some uniformed police officers who were questioning pedestrians on the street. They all held a photo, which upon closer inspection, seemed familiar. "Hello sir, have you seen?" Hearing the distant voices, Syd's expression changed, he lowered his hat and left the area silently. "So they've figured out I'm nearby." Arriving at his previous spot, Syd felt somewhat heavy-hearted. If those guys found him, a battle would likely be unavoidable, but he wasn't fully prepared yet. Spiritual Light Column Experience +1. Spiritual Light Column Experience +1. Chapter 23. Blue energy column sprang up from the ground, appearing quite eerie. By the afternoon, Syd had successfully upgraded the Spiritual Light Column to level 2. Ability, Spiritual Light Column, 0/500, level 2. The upgraded Spiritual Light Column not only had increased power but also emerged from the ground much faster. He even felt that now the Spiritual Light Column could be launched not just from the ground but also from his hands. Glancing at his abilities, almost all now at level 2, Syd breathed a sigh of relief. It was as if he had switched from a bird gun to a cannon. Not only had the power of his abilities increased significantly, but he could also use his level 2 abilities about 40 times before depleting his internal energy. Now, only sunlight all around remains unimproved. Syd murmured. However, not only was sunlight all around noisy to deploy, but it also consumed a lot, and he estimated that upgrading it would be slow. "Let's try it, see if I can do a castrated version." Suddenly, brilliant sunlight emanated from Syd, indeed carrying the force of annihilation. This time, however, there was no involvement of actual sunlight, it was entirely reliant on the light energy within his body. He gradually increased the intensity until his entire body was obscured by brilliant light, and then a notification sounded in his ear. "Sunlight all around experience +1. Whew!" Syd breathed a little easier. Although it still consumed a lot, compared to deploying full sunlight all around, it used much less. If he were to deploy the full sunlight all around, it would completely drain all the energy in his body. Next, he began practicing over and over again. Photon energy +1. Photon energy +1. Sunlight all around experience +1. Sunlight all around experience +1. Sunlight all around experience +1. Until dusk, when the sky gradually darkened, Syd finally stopped. He glanced at the data for sunlight all around and breathed a sigh of relief. Ability, Sunlight all around, 23/100, level 1. Almost there, I should be able to upgrade in a couple of days. Syd looked forward with some anticipation. He wondered what it would be like when sunlight all around reached level 2, would its power increase, or would its consumption decrease? Or perhaps its range would suddenly expand, just like when Rebound Shield was upgraded to level 2? With hopeful feelings, Syd moved on from the spot, searching for a new place to stay. Just half an hour after he left, a group of fully armed personnel appeared there. The target must have just left, search quickly. They hurried in and hurried out. While Syd was searching for a new place to stay, he suddenly paused. His gaze shifted suspiciously toward a distant figure. Looking at a man in the distance wearing a black jacket and jeans, he felt a sense of familiarity, as if he had seen him somewhere before. With curiosity, he slowly followed the man, intending to see where he was going. After a while, he followed the man to the entrance of a bar. As soon as he entered, a jarring noise hit his ears. Bang bang bang! The raucous rock music reverberated throughout the bar, lit by multicolored lights. The man he was following sat down at the bar and skillfully ordered a bottle of liquor. Watching the man smoking a cigar and drinking, Syd felt an increasing sense of familiarity. He took a closer look at the man's hairstyle and noticed that his hair was slightly raised, resembling two wolf ears. "Is it him?" Syd whispered the name, Wolverine. With this certainty, he slowly approached the bar. When they were just a few steps apart, he was almost sure. He carefully observed the man drinking in front of him. The man had a rugged face with strong, thick eyebrows and a full beard. His body was sturdy and muscular, enveloped by masculine hormones, exuding a wild aura. As Syd scrutinized, Logan also sized him up. The young man in front of him wore a white short-sleeved shirt and brown shorts. His brown hair and blue eyes were visible through his mask, showing a clean and young face, likely only 15 or 16 years old. Logan furrowed his brow and stopped drinking. Initially, he had noticed the kid seemed to be tracking him, initially thinking it was a misperception until the other followed him into the bar. He could now be sure, the kid was indeed tracking him. But, he didn't seem to recognize this youngster. Yet now, he approached as if he knew him. Though puzzled, he still said, "Kid, stay away from me." Saying that, he slammed his glass on the table, trying to intimidate the young man. However, to Logan's confusion, the kid seemed stuck like glue, not moving at all, seemingly unfazed. With growing curiosity, he finally couldn't resist asking, "Kid, do you know me?" Syd casually replied, "Of course, I not only know you, but I also know your name." "Logan, right?" Logan was startled, his confusion deepening. He swore he did not recognize the young man before him, but the youngster seemed to know him. Syd looked at him, pondered for a moment, and continued, "I not only know you're called Logan, but I also know your other name." Logan's brows furrowed, but the next second his expression changed, hearing a name that felt familiar. "James Howlett." Logan clutched his head, images flashed through his mind, seemingly revealing something, but they vanished as quickly as they appeared. When he recovered, his heavy hands suddenly grabbed the young man's shoulders. "Who the hell are you?" Looking at the mysterious young man before him, a flash of shock passed through Logan's eyes. He knew, this young man was not lying, and indeed knew him. He even suspected, this mysterious young man might know about his past. Since losing his memory, he had been trying to retrieve it. He never expected to find a clue today, and from such a young fellow? Syd, whose shoulders were tightly grasped, was somewhat speechless. He hadn't expected such a big reaction. He was naturally very familiar with this guy, and knew quite a lot about him. As a main character in X-Men, anyone who had seen it would definitely recognize him. "Cough, cough, let go of your hands first," Syd coughed. Hearing this, Logan realized he had overreacted, quickly releasing his tight grip. Though he let go, his eyes still fixed intently on the mysterious young man. Chapter 24. As he was stared at like this, Syd felt somewhat helpless. After thinking for a while, he decided to reveal some information. Under the dim light, he slowly began to tell Logan about his story. In a Canadian manner in 1845, you were just a 6 or 7-year-old child, frail and often ill. Your name was James Howlett. Your father, who loved you dearly, called you by your nickname, Jimmy. A tragedy occurred one night. As he narrated, Logan's expression was no longer calm, his rugged face slowly turned into a look of shock, as if the story was bringing back some memories. Syd glanced at him and continued, "The gardener at the manor killed your father, which triggered your mutant gene." He looked at Logan's hands. Then, he revealed something that shocked Logan. "You killed the gardener with your bone claws, but you didn't know that he was your real father. Your mother saw you as a monster, and you ran away from home, along with your half-brother from the same mother, Sabretooth." Hearing this shocking news, Logan's eyes widened, and some memories flashed in his mind. "You changed your name to Logan, and you and Victor went through World War I, World War II, and other wars until one day, you met Colonel Stryker." As he spoke, Syd glanced at Logan, thinking about how after so many battles, he got no recognition or benefits, and still suffered persecution from Colonel Stryker. It was indeed a tragic story. Listening, Logan was gradually stirred. Who was he, and how did he know so much? Logan muttered to himself, looking puzzled. At this moment, two men who were close friends of Logan and mutants as well, also showed surprise as they listened. They had been with Logan for so long and did not know he had such a story. They knew Logan had amnesia, but how did this young man across from them know all these things? The two exchanged a look, feeling an eerie sense of mystery, as if a fog surrounded the young man, making him seem mysterious. Syd then looked at the two men and then at Logan's expression, and once he was sure Logan wasn't paying attention, he continued his story. "You joined a mutant organization led by Stryker, whose members included Victor Sabretooth, Wade, a mercenary skilled with swords." Speaking of Deadpool, Syd's eyes showed a peculiar glint, wondering if he was still alive, as that would be quite troublesome. Then, he introduced other members like Agent Zero, Phantom, Blob, and Bradley, mentioning their skills and superpowers as well. As they listened, Logan and the other two felt increasingly strange, finding the young man ever more mysterious. "Is this military secrecy? You seem to know too much. Are you sure you're just a teenager?" The middle-aged Otto, with many wrinkles on his face, couldn't help but speak up. The lean, bearded, 30-something Valentine also nodded in agreement. Even questioning Logan to confirm if the young man's words triggered some memories, after Logan's confirmation, Valentine and Otto's eyes widened, their surprise turning into deep suspicion as they looked at the young man. Syd continued solemnly. Then, he described how Victor's beastliness became apparent during their missions, and Logan, unwilling to continue being a killing machine, chose to leave. He also mentioned Logan living under a false identity as a lumberjack, being betrayed by his girlfriend, and joining the Weapon X program. Finally, he included the fact that Logan lost his memories due to these events. Logan, your claws. As he spoke, Valentine and Otto couldn't help but glance at Logan's hands. Even Logan couldn't resist looking at his hands, finally understanding the metallic structure of his skeleton. Logan gratefully looked at the mysterious figure in front of him. He didn't know who the other party was, but since he had told him the truth, he was thankful. However, after this barrage of information and his friends Valentine and Otto's company, they all had one question. Who was this young man? He even knew the things Logan had forgotten, down to the details of military experiments. Like he witnessed it himself. They couldn't help but harbor this bizarre thought. Then, they all denied it, feeling it was impossible. The young man looked too young to have seen these events himself. From his demeanor, he didn't seem like an old monster, just a young man. Speaking of old monsters, Valentine and Otto looked at Logan, amazed by his age. Could Logan be old enough to be their grandfather? Logan, still somewhat shocked, found it hard to imagine how a young man knew things even he had forgotten. The memories brought back a real feeling, letting him know the young man's words were true. Now, though he hadn't fully recovered his memory, listening to the young man's narrative had restored some of his memory, helping him understand the general course of events and his origins. But then there was a question. Logan's expression was complex as he muttered, "Kid, who exactly are you? Could the other party be someone related to him? Not an enemy? An acquaintance? A relative?" He irritably raised an eyebrow. Suddenly, at that moment, he felt the young man's gaze was somewhat pitying, as if he pitied something about him. "Kid, why do you look at me like that?" Syd opened his mouth, sighed, and finally didn't say anything. After recounting the first half of Wolverine's story, he thought of Wolverine's tragic end in his later years. In his old age, Wolverine had fallen to driving a taxi just to make ends meet, and now, that Wolverine was gone forever. In the end, he died to save other mutants, and the plot looked somewhat disheartening and uncomfortable. The last part truly portrayed Logan as a hero, not just a mutant fighting battles. Syd shook his head. It wasn't just Wolverine, even Professor Charles Xavier had a tragic old age, developing dementia. The strongest human brain developing dementia was indeed unbelievable. Perhaps it was because the body wasn't originally his, but his comatose brother's, who had lain bedridden for years without using his brain, which might have contributed to the potential issues. Of course, it might also have been due to government-researched genetically modified foods. Under such foods, not only were newborns' mutant genes suppressed, but even those who had triggered superpowers were affected. Logan's self-healing factor was likely weakened due to these factors, along with the potential adamantium metal toxicity he suffered without his healing factor to counteract it, causing his body to deteriorate and age gradually. That era, too, due to government-researched genetically modified foods, made it very difficult for mutants to be born, leaving few mutants, nearly extinct. Overall, it was a terrible time for mutants and a terrible ending. Syd was unclear whether this was a story from another timeline or something that would happen in the future. Will there be a chance to change it in the future, or the ability to go to that timeline and change some things? Teach those governments a lesson. Let them experience once again the threat and fear that mutants can bring. Syd mused regretfully. Of course, after thinking so much, if he had to choose his favorite period of Wolverine, it would still be Wolverine's later years. Not only because he was more mature then, but there was also a sense of impending twilight that could move people. Suddenly, he thought of something, and his expression changed slightly. He suddenly wondered, if the timeline were reversed, like in X-Men, Days of Future Past, would he be erased? Thinking this, he suddenly felt a sense of crisis, a pressing desire to increase his power. He shook his head, glanced at Logan and the others, and put aside the thought for the moment. Listening to Logan's earlier question, he smiled casually and said, "Why do I look at you like that?" "Because I thought of your later years, which are a terrible ending, you probably don't want to know." As his words fell, Logan and the others were momentarily stunned, then they all started laughing. They thought the young man was joking, after all, who can see someone else's future? But, while they thought so, they also felt something unusual, as if the young man wasn't joking, which seemed very strange. Impossible. It shouldn't be possible. Logan and the others looked increasingly suspicious and confused as they gazed at the young man. Who was he, and how could he know so much, as if he had seen it with his own eyes? This is too mysterious, isn't it? Otto muttered. Loud rock music continued to play. At that moment, Valentine looked around and asked quietly, "Are you a mutant too?" With that, Syd looked surprised for a moment at him, then looked at Logan and nodded in affirmation, "Yes." "What's your ability?" Valentine's spirits lifted. Before Syd could answer, Logan and Otto's ears perked up. They hadn't waited for Syd's response before they had imagined a series of powers in their minds. Prophecy. Or something related to time. They couldn't help but think so, given how mysterious the young man had seemed, mysterious enough that they had to guess, otherwise, they couldn't explain their previous strange feelings. Even if it was a time-related mutant power, which they had never seen or even heard of, they couldn't help but speculate. Syd paused for a moment, then casually replied, "I can teleport." Space ability? Logan and the others were somewhat surprised. Just that. Although teleportation was also rare, they couldn't help but feel disappointed. Turns out we were overthinking it, haha. The bearded Valentine laughed heartily. Then, he patted Syd on the shoulder and praised, "But teleportation is still pretty awesome, at least it's great for escaping." Logan and the others agreed. Most mutants' abilities were quite ordinary, even useless. Having a practical superpower like teleportation was already very lucky and quite good. As they conversed, hundreds of meters away, at this moment, a group of people were also talking. "Sir, we've confirmed the target's location." A soldier hurried over, saluting before speaking. "Have you finally found him?" Captain George, fully armed, showed joy in his eyes. He murmured to himself, "Finally, I've found you." Thinking about how 5 of his team members had died because of that kid not long ago, his eyes uncontrollably flashed with hatred. "You won't escape this time." Looking into the distance, a confident smile appeared on his face. This operation not only had a large number of police officers assisting, but he had also called in many snipers. As soon as that kid showed his face, he would be shot on sight. Not only snipers, but he had also approved 7 Sentinel robots. That kid was definitely doomed. His eyes flashed with a murderous intent, no longer caring about the base leader, Alejandro's orders to capture the vicious kid alive, deciding to kill the ruthless child. As he anticipated the upcoming events, Captain Kenny next to him had a similar expression. Thinking about the boy who had escaped from his base, he still felt shame and rage. Despicable mutant, you can't escape this time. Just as he had initially thought, it would only take a few days to bring that guy back. "Oh? Have you found him?" At this moment, a refreshing female voice came from not far away. A woman wearing a light, slim-fit dress, tall and slender, giving off a light and elegant vibe, radiating a charming allure, carrying professional filming equipment, walked over. "Irina, hello." Kenny and his companion nodded at her. Then, Kenny smiled and said, "We've already locked on the target's location, ready to make a move." "That's good." Carrying the filming equipment, with a group of program staff behind her, Irina smiled faintly. A recent mutant video had gone viral online, attracting widespread attention. Her TV station had also noticed and seized the business opportunity. So, through connections, they approached Kenny, preparing to broadcast the capture of the mutant fugitive live, aiming to earn a surge in viewership. At that moment, the program, through its pre-show hype, had already attracted a lot of attention, with many people discussing it, sitting in front of their viewing devices, eagerly awaiting the start of the live broadcast. Glancing at the number of followers, Irina's face showed a satisfied smile. Really looking forward to it. At that moment, many people online began discussing the situation. Chapter 25. Haha, is it starting? As the preview ads played, numerous viewers were invigorated. Last time that video host couldn't release the sequel, but this time we can finally see it. Yeah, I can finally see the scene where that mutant is caught. It's been keeping me up at night. Everyone, take a guess at when the mutant will be caught. I bet 20 minutes. I think it won't take long, maybe about 10 minutes. From the preview ads they saw, they could tell that this time was of great magnitude, which gave them confidence. Not a single person thought they would lose, they all felt it was only a matter of time before the young mutant was captured. As people eagerly awaited the capture scene to play, some mutant viewers also began to worry. I hope he can get away. They prayed in their hearts, hoping their fellow mutant could successfully escape. At this moment, both Professor X and Magneto noticed the live broadcast. Professor X's face showed concern. Magneto's expression darkened, his disdain for ordinary humans intensifying. No matter what they thought, they had little hope for the young man's safety now. No one knew better than they did about the government's power. With such thorough preparations, it seemed the young man could not escape. Professor X sighed, already considering if he could use his connections to get the young man out. Meanwhile, Magneto contemplated whether to plan another terrorist attack to teach the ordinary humans a lesson. As countless people paid attention to this broadcast, Kenny and his team surrounded the target's location. 30 fully armed soldiers disembarked from an armored vehicle, with some police cars following for escort. As they were about 100 meters from the target, the soldiers prepared while chatting casually. "Hey, Raylan, do you think we'll catch the target this time?" A handsome soldier hesitantly asked the person next to him. Raylan glanced at him and smiled confidently. "Don't worry, we know the target well and have already planned the operation. There's no escape for the target." Before coming, they had watched many videos of the mutant fighting and understood his capabilities well. The think tank had also arranged a comprehensive battle plan. How could they lose? Hearing this, the asking soldier also showed a confident expression. "Yes, it's just teleportation and shooting black energy waves, what's so difficult about that?" As some soldiers chatted, Captains George and Kenny also conversed in the distance. Captain George suddenly said, "Has number 37's strength increased?" Kenny understood his concern and shook his head, smiling, just as the commander said, "Hiding 2 abilities and part of his strength is already the limit for that kid, he has nothing left to hide. We've already figured out number 37's strength. With such preparation, he can't escape." "That makes sense," Captain George said, relaxing. Kenny continued, "Don't say that we even brought 7 sentinel robots." He glanced at a few safes nearby, his face confident. Speaking of the sentinel robots, Captain George looked at the boxes containing the spider-type sentinel robots with some doubt. "Why didn't we bring the giant sentinels, but these spider-type models?" In his words, there was a hint of dissatisfaction. Captain Kenny glanced at him speechlessly. "You know, giant sentinel robots cost a fortune. Getting approval for these few was already enough. For capturing number 37, we don't need those sentinels, these robots are enough to catch him." Hearing this, Captain George nodded, "I see. Right, for number 37, these 7 sentinel robots are enough." At that moment, the beautiful Irina, standing not far away, perked up. "Oh, sentinel robots. I heard they're still under research, you've already produced some finished products." Irina giggled, "Just right, let the audience see the sentinel robots this time, maybe the ratings will go up." Kenny and the others said nothing, tacitly approving her filming. The video uploaded online previously had indeed made a significant impact. This successful capture would tell everyone that mutants are not so scary and not unbeatable. It was about teaching confidence. That was the main reason they allowed Irina to follow and film. As they arranged the combat site, this operation also attracted much attention from passers-by, who followed curiously and warily at a distance, even using binoculars to watch. A distance away, Chris, who had once saved Syd, was hurrying to the scene. "Kid, you have to hold on." Since seeing the preview earlier, he knew the child was in danger. Although he had seen the child's abilities before and knew they were somewhat effective, facing such a military encirclement, what use were those abilities? How could he possibly escape? So, he was rushing there, hoping to help the child escape if possible. As he headed there, Captain George and the others began their action. Bright lights shone on the bar, making the street as bright as day. Inside the bar, Logan and others, who were chatting, also noticed the crowd's panic. "Run! The police have surrounded the place." "Oh my, I don't want to be involved." The crowd screamed in panic, rushing towards the exits. "What's happening?" Valentine looked puzzled. "I'll go check," Logan said gravely. Trusting his healing factor, he strode towards the bar's entrance. Valentine and Otto exchanged glances, not understanding what was happening, and followed him. Before following, Otto didn't forget to turn and shout at Syd, "Hey, keep up, let's go see together." Watching them leave, Syd's eyes slightly darkened. Unlike Logan and the others, he quickly guessed the reason. It must be those people who have come. He thought about whether to use spatial teleportation to try and escape. A few seconds later, he decided to observe the situation from a distance before considering running. He followed Logan and the others from afar. Just as he approached the entrance, his expression changed slightly when he saw the bright lights surrounding the area, shining from distant vehicle roofs. He saw several police cars and at least dozens of fully armed soldiers, already considering how to safely escape. As he planned his route, Logan and the others saw the outside arrangement and all changed their expressions. What was happening? Such a large force? Beyond their surprise, they also felt a bit guilty, fearing these people were after them. As they pondered individually, Captain George and the others made their move. Chapter 26. Captain George, holding a megaphone, declared righteously, "Mutant fugitive Kevin, we know you're inside. Come out, we've surrounded the place. You can't escape." George sneered as he spoke, mocking the poor choice of the bar by the fugitive, which provided an environment perfect for their operation. As he shouted, Irina directed the camera crew to start filming. The scene was broadcast live, instantly capturing the attention of countless viewers. Immediately, the audience brimmed with anticipation, eager to see the mutant fugitive battle the police and army, only to be defeated and captured. Watching mutants felt uneasy, sharing a sense of doom. Logan, prepared for combat as he stepped out of the bar, furrowed his brows, realizing they were not the target. Wait. If not them, then who? Kevin? An image flashed through Logan's mind. Otto and his companion had their suspicions, hesitating whether to leave. Although they were mutants too, they had no personal connection to Kevin and saw no reason to risk so much. After all, they were facing dozens of fully armed soldiers, and they doubted anyone could defeat them. As they hesitated and Syd was about to use spatial teleportation to retreat, his expression suddenly changed. Seeing that George's calls were unanswered, he signaled a few soldiers to open several boxes. As the boxes opened, 7 basin-sized black spiders stood up and quickly scurried towards the bar at an astonishing speed. "Target locked," a cold mechanical voice announced. They paused briefly, then with incredible accuracy, rushed towards Syd's direction. Syd, ready to teleport, changed his expression slightly. "Have they locked onto me?" he quickly realized. These damned things, Sentinel robots. He recognized them as Sentinel robots, though he was unfamiliar with this specific model. If it were the infamous Phantom Sentinels from the reversal of the future, he would know the model. Clearly, these spider-type Sentinels, like the Phantom Sentinels, also had the ability to identify and lock onto mutants. Trouble. He knew that without dealing with these Sentinel robots, even using spatial teleportation might lead them straight to him later. Why must they provoke me? Syd's eyes flashed with a fierce light. Since these people were so persistent, they should be prepared to face death. The next second, facing the Sentinel spiders approaching within 15 meters, he pointed his finger. Black particles. Black particle experience +1. The black particles shot out like bullets, swiftly heading towards the Sentinel robots. Sensing something, the Sentinel spiders' red eyes flickered, and they dodged slightly. Although they moved quickly, some of their legs were still swept away, causing them to topple to the ground, unstable. What's this? Logan and others were confused and immediately turned to look towards the bar entrance. The area around the bar was nearly empty by now. They moved closer and saw a familiar figure. Is that Kevin? Although Otto and his companion had anticipated this, they were still surprised to have their guess confirmed. What had this young man done to warrant such an aggressive response from these people? They were now even more inclined to leave the area. Logan, however, reacted differently. Trouble. Logan spat out his cigar. While he verbally expressed annoyance, seemingly uninterested in intervening, his actions spoke otherwise. His eyes gleamed with a bloody light, and he raised his hands, unleashing his adamantium claws. He charged towards the Sentinel robots. The Sentinels, having hidden after the black particle attack, now had their red lights flicker. They had detected these 3 mutants earlier but had not targeted them since they were not their primary objective. However, they hadn't expected them to interfere now. Clearly, this hindered their mission. Soon, Their programming issued a command to eliminate these three. In an instant, 3 black sentinel spiders encircled Logan. With a swish, Logan's claw struck at a leaping sentinel spider. To his surprise, the creature was unexpectedly sturdy, even his adamantium claws only left deep marks, giving a sensation of resistance. How had that youngster easily dismembered a spider's leg? Logan's eyes showed his puzzlement. Seeing Logan surrounded by sentinel robots, Otto and his companion, who were about to leave, reluctantly joined the fray. Otto's figure blurred, sprinting at the speed of sound towards one of the sentinels and punched it. With a bang, the sentinel spider was sent flying, but he also howled in pain, clutching his swollen right hand. Shit, what kind of tough stuff is this? On the other side, Valentine burst out with white-blue electricity, striking a sentinel spider attacking Logan with a bolt of lightning. As they battled the sentinel robots, Captain George and the spectators of the live broadcast also noticed the sudden appearance of these 3 mutants. Target has engaged, all units be aware. George first alerted the others, then picked up the megaphone to warn Logan and the others. Those 3 mutants, stop immediately, hands up and put your heads on your heads. After several warnings, seeing they were not heeding and the sentinel robots might even be defeated, Captain George ordered, use tranquilizer guns on them. Soldiers took out specialized tranquilizer guns and began firing at the distant trio. The 3 were quickly at a disadvantage, risking being hit and then collapsing, unable to move. As they fell into a difficult position, the audience began commenting. These 3 are impressive. Such speed, and another one can emit lightning, the sentinel robots are losing, these mutants are amazing. The big guy with claws is also formidable, he took down a sentinel robot with one swipe. After their praise, they began to predict their defeat. But now they're going to lose, haha. Yes, look how frantic they are, I told you, no mutant can defeat so many soldiers, just as expected. Just as Logan and the others felt somewhat desperate, and the audience enjoyed the scene, a figure appeared in the camera's view, exposed to everyone's sight. Chapter 27. The gunfire paused momentarily. At this moment, everyone's attention from the soldiers firing their guns, to the assisting police officers, and even Captain George and the audience was captured by the approaching figure. The young man who came forward wore a white short-sleeved shirt and brown shorts, with chestnut brown hair and azure blue eyes. Although most of his face was hidden by a mask, his handsome features were still partly visible. Is this the mutant fugitive? He looks so young, does he really have the capability to do all that? I'm wondering too, he doesn't look like he has that kind of ability. Audience members who had not seen the video speculated amongst themselves. Watching the scene on their screens, Professor Charles Xavier and Magneto felt the young man's face seemed somewhat familiar, though they couldn't pinpoint where they had seen him before. Although this feeling wasn't new to them, they dismissed it as a mere illusion. Regardless of their thoughts, as mutants themselves, they couldn't help but feel worried for the young man. Why did you come out? Logan, while keeping an eye on the sentinel spiders, asked with a furrowed brow. Otto and his companion also expressed their concerns, knowing that these people were after him, why hadn't he run away? With his teleportation abilities, he should have been able to leave, they thought. Staying could not only be unhelpful but might also put them at risk. You all should leave, I'll handle this, Syd said. If you continue to intervene, you'll be in danger. Hearing this, Logan's frown deepened. Listen, kid, don't try to be a hero. You should leave and let us handle this. Although Logan was somewhat surprised that the young man had previously managed to disable a mechanical spider's leg, he still didn't believe that the young man could face so many well-armed opponents. So, at this moment, he was urging him to leave, planning to stay behind himself to buy some time. Then, another voice chimed in. He's right, you should leave. Hey? Heads turned towards the source of the voice. A burly man with a black hood approached with large strides. Go quickly, I'll hold them off. The burly man said with a heavy voice. Looking at Syd, he sighed inwardly. His impression of the young man was still based on their initial encounters. The young man's powers might handle a dozen people, but facing dozens of fully armed soldiers would be difficult. Thus, he too urged the young man to leave. Wolverine Logan and his companions were initially wary, then relaxed. Is he here to help? Seeing their questioning looks, Syd nodded. Although Chris was masked with a black hood, Syd recognized him from his physique and voice. At that moment, Captain George's cold voice came from afar. None of you will leave today. Following his command, the soldiers resumed shooting. Chris's body emitted a red glow, forming an energy shield that blocked the tranquilizer darts, then he pulled out a pistol from his waist and started shooting. Bang! Bang! The soldiers and the group were soon embroiled in a fierce battle. Unfortunately, despite their formidable abilities, facing sentinel robots and the unexpected tranquilizer guns put them at a disadvantage. Valentine even got hit by a tranquilizer dart and quickly collapsed to the ground. The live audience discussed enthusiastically. These mutants are quite powerful, but facing so many soldiers, they seem outmatched now. Haha. They're about to lose, and once they do, that mutant kid hiding behind won't escape either. Captain George and Captain Kenny watched the scene with satisfied smiles. This is what happens when you oppose us. Captain George sneered. None of you will escape today. Saying so, he signaled covertly to a nearby soldier. The signaled soldier quietly withdrew from the assault. Suddenly, the sound of a sniper rifle shot echoed through the area. Not good. Logan and the others' expressions changed, and they quickly looked towards the young man. At that moment, both the live audience and those present turned their gaze to the same spot. And then, they were stunned. The young man they thought had been shot was actually standing there unharmed, without a mark on him. How could this be? Could everyone have guessed wrong? Was the bullet not meant for the young man? As they pondered, they saw the hidden sniper shoot again. Bang! The bullet whistled, closing in on its target at a shocking speed. At that moment, all eyes were focused on the young man. And then, they were shocked. The bullet that had been shot suddenly vanished. As confusion and shock permeated the crowd, Syd, the target of the sniper, breathed a sigh of relief. He had set up 2 rebound shields in front of him as soon as he came out, which immediately absorbed the sniper bullet into a void. The audience was puzzled. How did the bullet disappear? Did it miss? As they wondered, Syd said coldly, "Return to sender." Without waiting for the bullet trapped in the void space to disintegrate, Syd released it. Swoosh! The frozen sniper bullet reappeared and sped back towards the sniper at the same speed. What? Ah! The sniper screamed as the bullet struck him in the chest. Blood splattered as he clutched his chest, falling to the ground, gasping for breath, seemingly hit in the heart. Whether it was the sniper or others, everyone was filled with astonishment. What kind of power is that? Rebounding bullets. While the audience was confused, the expressions of Captain George and Captain Kenny changed drastically, unable to believe what they had just seen. Did number 37 hide another ability? Amidst his astonishment, Captain George urgently ordered the soldiers, "Forget those other mutants, focus all attacks on that mutant fugitive." Yes. Instantly, a barrage of tranquilizer darts and bullets rapidly headed towards Syd. Rebound shield experience +1. Rebound shield experience +1. Bullet after bullet, dart after dart, mysteriously disappeared and then reappeared. Ah! Despite being prepared, Captain George and his men were still caught off guard by the returning bullets and darts. For a moment, screams filled the air. Logan and the others stood aside, completely dumbfounded by the scene. Chapter 28. Not only the onlookers, but also the audience were left with their mouths agape. Even Magneto and Professor X showed a flicker of surprise in their eyes. Before they could recover from their shock, the young man made his move. His figure vanished from the spot, reappeared 10 meters away, and then disappeared again. In 2 blinks, he was incredibly close to Captain George and his men. "Stop him!" Captain George frowned. The prepared snipers fired towards where the young man might appear next. The remaining 3 sentinel robots also launched an attack. Black particles. Black particle experience +1. To the astonishment of Wolverine, Logan and others, the black particles instantly penetrated the body of a sentinel spider, rendering its unusually tough body ineffective. In a flash of electricity, the sentinel spider convulsed and collapsed to the ground. Spatial transfer experience +1. Spatial transfer experience +1. Black particle experience +1. While dodging, Syd didn't forget to fire black particles towards the distant soldiers. Simultaneously, he used a move he had never shown before. Spiritual light column. Spiritual light column experience +1. A brilliant blue energy column erupted from beneath a soldier. Screams echoed as the soldier was instantly split in 2, the scene gruesomely bloody. "Oh God, help! My heavens!" Cries of horror rose up. Watching his comrade Raylan die horrifically, Herman was stunned. Just moments ago, Raylan had been joking around, confident that the mutant fugitive couldn't escape. Herman muttered to himself, wasn't it said that this mutant could only absorb sunlight, teleport, and emit black energy waves? What was happening now? First, the ability to rebound bullets, and now this blue energy column. Was this person as easy to deal with as Captain George had said? At that moment, Herman roared inwardly, fear of the young man growing in his heart. What kind of monster is this? To possess so many mutant abilities. Not just him, but Captain George and Captain Kenny were also in disbelief nearby. Not to mention the ease with which the Sentinel robots were destroyed, the kid had hidden more abilities. Captain Kenny, didn't you say he could hide some of his strength, that he had reached his limit? Why does he still have other abilities hidden? Captain George shouted in disbelief. Kenny was equally shocked, murmuring, God, how could he still have hidden strengths? Does number 37 have so many superpowers? He couldn't help but feel perplexed. Nearby, Logan finally understood how the young man had so easily destroyed the robot's legs. What kind of mutant power is this? Otto and Valentine felt similarly shocked. However, what shocked them the most was that this mysterious young man possessed more than one ability. He said he only had teleportation, right? So what are all these? Look at what they had seen, just in a moment's time, they had witnessed about 4 different superpowers. It's unbelievable. The young man, already mysterious in their minds, had now become even more enigmatic. Beside them, Chris was also feeling mixed emotions. He couldn't believe it. His impression of the young man was still based on when he fought those 10 people. Although he was strong then, he wasn't nearly as powerful as now. When did he become so strong? Do mutants enhance their powers this quickly? And does this kid have too many mutant abilities? Chris wondered. While those on site were stunned, the viewers watching the live stream had diverse thoughts. This mutant is so powerful. Heavens, he's much stronger than the other mutants. They were powerful, but definitely not this strong. One person can withstand a group of soldiers. I think I'm going to have insomnia now. How can someone be this powerful? While ordinary viewers were shocked, watching mutants were equally astounded. This guy is too powerful. Why does he have so many abilities? The mutants were filled with confusion, and also some envy and jealousy. Professor X and Magneto displayed unusual expressions. Professor X saw great potential in the boy, though not as much as in an Omega-level mutant, but still impressive. With some training and mastery of his abilities, he could definitely become a qualified X-Man. As for Magneto, his eyes gleamed with admiration, watching the boy decisively slaughter ordinary humans, liking him more and more, the idea of recruiting him growing stronger in his mind. As they each had their thoughts, Syd in the midst of the battle suddenly called out to Logan and the others, "You guys leave here first, I'll come find you later." Logan and his companions, catching their breath behind cover, were initially startled, then also realized that staying might only hinder the situation. So, they began evacuating, supporting the limp Valentine as they moved away from the fray. Captain George and his men wanted to stop them, but they were too preoccupied with Syd to act effectively. In a short span, Syd had taken down over a dozen men. Number 37, stop! Captain Kenny shouted grimly. Syd paused, almost laughing out of irritation. Did they really think he would stop after everything they had done? Without hesitation, he fired a black particle towards Kenny. Although Kenny narrowly escaped, the close call left him sweating coldly. Syd frowned slightly, instinctively wanting to use spatial transfer to approach. But before he could act on the impulse, he saw George unbuttoning his shirt to reveal a row of bombs strapped to his chest. Clearly, this was a precaution against Syd's potential spatial transfer attack. If he dared to move closer, George was prepared to detonate the bombs, hoping to take Syd down with him. Syd grimaced. He couldn't risk it. It was uncertain whether the bomb would detonate quicker than his spatial transfer or if he could outpace George's reaction. If George anticipated the spatial transfer and detonated the bombs early, Syd could run right into an explosion. Syd wasn't willing to gamble with his life. If only the black particles were level 3. Syd sighed. Given that his level 2 black particles had a range of 15 meters, he still couldn't reach George effectively. If the black particles were level 3, the range would certainly increase, and then... Syd pondered deeply, considering even using extra photonic energy stored in his body to enhance the black particles. However, he was uncertain if that would increase their range. Moreover, rather than increasing his expenditure to enhance the black particles, he might as well use the sunburst. Chapter 29. Last chapter will be uploaded in a few days. When uploading I'll upload the poll in Patreon. Votes value. Patreons. Hyper supporter equals 30x. Super supporters equals 20x. Supporters equals 10x. Free members equals 3x. Reviews equals 2x. Web novel comment equals 1x. The poll will be up in a few days, so for the moment you can read the other two fanfics. They are pretty good, so you can give them a try. Cheers. Thinking about the sunburst, Syd shook his head. After sensing the remaining energy inside his body, he knew it was impossible to execute it now. The battle had drained him, not just from the spatial transfers but from the energy expended to eliminate those 10 or so people. His internal energy store was only enough for about 40 uses of his abilities. Moreover, it was nighttime, making the execution of Sunburst even more difficult. The last thing he wanted was to attempt it and end up completely drained. Even if he could execute it, he wouldn't be able to eliminate all of his pursuers at once. It seemed that if he tried and exhausted his energy, he would be left helpless. If only I had more photon energy, or if Sunburst was at level 2. Syd sighed to himself. After sensing his remaining energy and noting that Logan and the others had left, he felt it was time for him to also make his exit. Black Particle Experience +1. Black Particle Experience +1. Before leaving, he fired 2 black particles at a nearby sentinel spider, completely destroying them to prevent any pursuit. After estimating the leftover photonic energy, he fired another black particle at a man, eliciting a scream. Black Particle Experience +1. Without waiting for the furious Captain George and his men to react, Syd's figure blurred and vanished from the spot, reappearing 10 meters away. After several more flickers, he completely disappeared from everyone's view. George and Kenny, with grim expressions, hesitated for a moment but did not order a pursuit. Damn it! Captain Kenny cursed through gritted teeth. They had let that kid escape again. If it weren't for his hidden abilities, they could have captured him this time. Thinking about these hidden abilities, even he couldn't help but be astonished. Damn, how many abilities does this kid have? He cursed. Captain George felt similarly bewildered, wondering how that kid was so different, possessing so many mutant abilities. I think this time the kid must have reached his limit. George managed a strained smile. Captain Kenny hesitated but eventually nodded, sighing, another failure. We need to think about how to explain this to Alessandro. George's expression soured. It wasn't really their fault, it was that the kid had again shown new powers. Just then, they heard Irina comforting the audience. Dear viewers, it seems our capture operation has failed, but don't be discouraged. That mutant fugitive won't escape for long. After all, he's just one person. How can he contend with the government? It won't be long before he's captured. Irina smiled sweetly, trying to calm the viewers. Some viewers, initially fearful of mutants, relaxed a little. Right, that mutant is powerful, but how could he possibly stand against the government? If the military had been deployed, he would have been captured already. Many people relaxed thinking this. Listening to Irina's comforting words, George and Kenny felt even worse. A good operation to capture a mutant and show that mutants weren't that scary had turned into this? Now, wasn't it blatantly telling everyone that mutants are terrifying? That they couldn't defeat a mutant? Thankfully, Irina's final words salvaged some dignity for them, and they too felt it made sense. After all, how could one person escape their grasp? Though they hadn't captured him now, he would surely be caught eventually. Some mutants watching the live stream, initially happy for their fellow mutants' escape, felt a twinge of worry at these words. Professor X and Magneto had different thoughts now. Professor X wondered if they could find the boy and hide him to avoid the storm, while Magneto thought about going to meet him and teach the humans a lesson. Spatial Transfer Experience +1. After escaping the area, Syd breathed a sigh of relief. I'll let you off this time. Thinking about the two leaders, a glint flashed in his eyes. Then, sensing his nearly depleted photonic energy, his face showed a hint of helplessness. The energy inside him was still insufficient, otherwise, he could have resolved those people completely. This time, their heavy losses should buy me some development time. Syd looked forward to the daylight, eager to continue practicing his abilities, aiming to level up Sunburst to level 2 and the black particles and other abilities to level 3. By then, if he encountered those people again, he wouldn't even need to run, he could easily defeat them. Just as he was filled with anticipation, Syd paused, remembering Logan and the others who had fled. Where did they escape to? After thinking for a while, he decided to head towards Chris's house. 40 minutes later, he heard a call from a distance. Hey, Kevin, over here. Otto called out from afar. Syd looked closely and saw a man waving at him in the distance. Logan and the others were also there. Dragging his tired body, Syd quickly ran over. Follow me. Otto led him towards a manhole cover near a sewer entrance, opened it, and climbed down first, followed by Logan and the others. Syd hesitated for a moment before covering the manhole and slowly climbing down. Just a short way down, he was surprised to find a whole different world below. In the dim, damp environment, a makeshift dwelling was set up not far away. Otto looked at Valentine and said, "We built this a while back, originally as a place to stay in case we needed to escape." He paused, then laughed wryly, "But now it's just as well, it's coming in handy." After introducing the place, including Otto, everyone looked at Syd with astonishment. "Who exactly are you?" Valentine, who had regained some consciousness, couldn't help but ask. Logan appeared amazed. Otto and Chris, too, looked at him with a strange expression, viewing him differently. Syd didn't know how to respond. At that moment, Wolverine Logan said dryly, "Kid, you sure have a lot of abilities. You said you only had teleportation." He looked at Syd with an odd expression. Syd felt a bit awkward and tried to explain, "I didn't say I only had teleportation, just that I could do it." Despite his explanation, Logan and the others still looked at him as if he were a creature. Especially Logan, Otto, and Valentine. Previously, they had found him mysterious because of his detailed recounting of Logan's exploits. After the recent battle, they found the young man even more unfathomably mysterious. They were all curious about his identity, origins, and abilities. Then, Chris, who had been silent, spoke up, "Is this what you meant by hiding a bit of your power? From the time we met until now, you've shown nearly 6 abilities. Does that mean you have at least 6 abilities?" "What?" Logan and the others, who thought they knew the young man well, were utterly dumbfounded. 6 abilities? Not just what they had seen before but others hidden as well? Their expressions changed, and they were even more shocked. Who exactly was this young man? Why did he know so many secrets? As a mutant, how could he have so many abilities? At that moment, a string of questions popped into their minds. Syd didn't know how to answer, so he simply repeated something he had told Chris before. "As a mutant, I must be cautious, so I hid some of my abilities." "That's just a bit?" Chris asked incredulously, scratching his head. "You kid." Suddenly, he asked, "Kid, are you hiding anything else? What level mutant are you? Level 3 or 4? Not just him, but even Logan couldn't help but wonder. As for level 5, they didn't even consider that possibility. Syd coughed awkwardly, unsure how to respond. He changed the subject. "How long do you plan to stay here?" Looking around at the poor environment, Otto replied, "We'll wait until things calm down outside before we can leave. It should take a few days. It's too dangerous to go out now." Logan and the others nodded. Hearing this, Syd glanced at them and then said, "I might leave here tomorrow." "What? You're crazy!" Otto exclaimed in shock, "Aren't you afraid of being caught if you go out like this?" "Listen, kid." Wolverine Logan also couldn't help but interject, wanting to persuade him. Before he could finish, Syd said, "Staying here makes no sense for me. Even if I don't leave, those people will find this place soon. And they're after me, not you. It's better for you if I leave." Of course, the most important reason was that the place was too dark. Without sunlight, how could he enhance his powers? If he really stayed here without improving his powers, that would truly be courting death. After some persuasion, seeing that his mind was made up, they could only look at him with complex expressions. Time passed quickly, and soon it was the next day. Absorbing the little sunlight that came through the manhole, Syd's energy began to recover. 10 minutes later. Nodding at Logan and the others, Syd's figure blurred and vanished from the sewer. Watching his figure disappear, the others showed a trace of concern. After yesterday's events, the pursuit of Kevin would definitely intensify, and they wondered if he could evade capture. In a secluded alley, Syd's figure suddenly appeared. Quickly scanning the surroundings to ensure no one else was around, he hurriedly left the area. As he searched for a new hiding place, he saw how extensive their power was. On the streets, people were stationed at regular intervals, seemingly looking for suspicious individuals. Syd frowned, opting to rely on spatial transfers to move around. Spatial transfer experience +1. Spatial transfer experience +1. After nearly half an hour, he found a secluded spot that was also sunlit. Once his energy was fully restored, he heard the long-awaited notification sound. Photon energy +1. Photon energy +1. Photon energy +1. Taking advantage of the time to collect light energy, Syd experimented with some things. Rebound shield experience +1. Rebound shield experience +1. In the blink of an eye, 2 invisible rebound shields appeared around him. When Syd tried to summon a third rebound shield, he frowned. Failed. He had a feeling that a third rebound shield might require the rebound shield to be at level 3. I originally thought about deploying several rebound shields to completely protect myself, but it seems I was thinking too much. After testing the rebound shield, he focused on his other abilities. Soon, his attention was drawn to Sunburst. Ability, Sunburst, 23/100, level 1. First, I'll level up Sunburst to level 2, then raise the black particles to level 3. By then, the range of Sunburst and the range of the black particles should both be enhanced. The next second, a dazzling light appeared on him, accompanied by the notification sound. Sunburst experience +1. Sunburst experience +1. Sunburst experience +1. As Syd worked hard to enhance his abilities, at base 23, after dealing with the wounded and having a sleepless night, George and another person nervously knocked on the office door of the base commander, Alessandro. Come in. Alessandro's deep voice sounded. Captain George and the other person entered tentatively, startled by the intense gaze of Commander Alessandro staring at them as they walked in. Sitting in his chair, dressed in a black and white suit and with a slicked-back hairdo, Alessandro looked grim and sharp-eyed as he eyed the two men entering. Failed again? He asked darkly. Captain George and his companion took a deep breath, reluctantly nodding. You two are really useless. With so many people, you can't even catch a simple number 37. Do you know how many calls I've received about this? You two are incompetent. Alessandro angrily slammed his desk and threw a water cup at them. Bang! The water cup struck George, causing him great pain, but he dared not make a sound. Seeing the commander's anger slightly appeased, Captain Kenny hurriedly explained the situation. Commander, there's something very wrong with number 37. Alessandro signaled him to continue. Captain Kenny quickly summarized the battle and mentioned the enhancement of number 37's abilities, even revealing that he had displayed 2 additional mutant powers. What did you say? Alessandro's face showed a look of shock. Chapter 30. The poll is up. Vote for your favorite fanfic, and the winner gets picked up. The fanfics are: starting as a Class 5 mutant. Hogwarts, I really am a model wizard. Marvel, I summon heroes from various worlds. The poll will only last till the end of Sunday. Votes value: Patreons. Hyper supporter equals 30x. Super supporters equals 20x. Supporters equals 10x. Free members equals 3x. Web novel reviews equals 1x. Are you sure? Alexandro asked in surprise and doubt. Positive. Captain Kenny nodded solemnly. Number 37 indeed has acquired 2 new abilities, one can reflect bullets, and the other can emit a blue energy beam. Upon hearing this, Alexandro stroked his neatly trimmed beard, murmuring in surprise and suspicion, that kid, could he have been hiding his strength and abilities? Although he thought so, he still felt something was amiss. No. His range of mutant abilities is still too vast. He had considered whether these abilities might be derivatives of a single mutant ability, like psychic powers giving rise to telepathy and mind control. However, the abilities that the kid had shown didn't seem related at all. Let's just assume that the kid has mutated, gaining several abilities isn't that big of a deal. After all, the kid had many abilities, but none particularly strong. Even if he had many, what difference would it make? In Alexandro's eyes, as long as he was willing to pay the price, he could easily take care of that kid, not a significant threat. Unable to figure it out, Alexandro didn't dwell on it, his gaze sternly settling on George and another man. He said, this doesn't change the fact that you failed again. This time, you didn't just fail to capture him, you also lost a lot of men. Hearing this, Captain Kenny knew they would likely face punishment and hurriedly said, Commander Alexandro, please give us one more chance. I have already tested his limits, I am sure I can catch him next time. George and Alexandro, standing by, were slightly startled by his words. Oh, Captain Kenny, what do you mean? George asked in surprise. Noticing their gaze, Captain Kenny smiled slightly, saying, I didn't understand when number 37 escaped before, but now I've figured it out. At that time, number 37 took down almost half of our men. With his abilities, it wouldn't have been hard to take down the rest. Yet, the kid didn't continue, instead, he left. With a laugh, he added, you mean? George, catching on, his eyes lit up. Captain Kenny affirmed, yes, I suspect that the kid had reached his limit and couldn't sustain his abilities any longer. Considering this, George and Alexandro thought it over and agreed. Indeed, judging by the kid's decisive attitude in killing before, if he could have continued, he would not have spared the remaining men and would have killed them on the spot. That is to say, he had probably reached his limit at that moment, which forced him to retreat. You mean? Alexandro frowned slightly. Captain Kenny affirmed, just send more people next time to encircle him, and number 37 definitely won't escape. Having tested the kid's limits, plan it out, and he won't get away even if he had wings. Alexandro, seeing the logic, hesitated for a moment before deciding to give them another chance. He nodded his head. Seeing his agreement, Captain Kenny and George breathed a sigh of relief. Just then, George suddenly thought of something and asked, Commander, could we request a few giant sentinel robots? Captain Kenny also brightened up at the idea. Alexandro shook his head, the giant sentinel robots are still in development, some critical aspects haven't been breakthrough yet, we don't even have a finished product. George and the other were a bit disappointed. Looking at them, knowing they were somewhat unsure and wanted to secure some leverage, he instructed, this time, you'll head to base 2, call on a mutant known as Hound, he can help you locate No. 37. Also, number 1 and number 5 will be joining you this time. As he mentioned number 1 and number 5, his face couldn't help but show pride. George and the other were stunned. Hearing the name Hound, they knew what abilities that mutant had, and they were not surprised, but number 1 and number 5 stunned them. Thinking of number 1 and number 5, their eyes showed both awe and fear. Number 5 with super speed self-healing, energy bursts. Number 1 with metal body, enhanced strength, heightened senses, pulse interference. These two were monsters, humanoid weapons. Monsters born from their base's research. From the numbers alone, the strength these two possessed was far more terrifying compared to number 37. Initially, Kenny had assessed that compared to number 37, these two were the true mutants, possessing fearsome power. Moreover, number 1 was known as the mutant nemesis, his pulse interference not only made electronic devices malfunction in his presence but also disrupted mutants' abilities, rendering them ineffective. So far, they had never encountered a mutant who wasn't affected by his interference. With him around, even if number 37 tried to run, he wouldn't get far, facing him, his abilities would be neutralized on contact. Without his powers, number 37 would be just a regular person, how could he resist then? Realizing this, Kenny and the other couldn't help but show confident smiles. Captain Kenny praised, compared to number 1 and number 5, number 37 is really nothing, with them, we absolutely cannot fail. He couldn't even imagine failing, not just considering the pulse interference, but even the sheer power of number 1 and number 5 alone wasn't something number 37 could handle. Number 37 took some time just to deal with a dozen men, whereas number 1 and number 5 could probably dispose of them neatly within a minute. And now that they had tested the kid's limits and had number 1 and number 5 on their side, how could they lose? Captain Kenny couldn't see how. Before dismissing the two, Alexandro also approved 5 sentinel spiders for assistance in the capture. Then, he stayed in his office, quietly awaiting good news. While they were discussing these matters, inside base 23, both regular and mutant prisoners were whispering among themselves. Hey, have you heard? They still haven't caught No. 37. Not only that, but he killed a lot of the people they sent after him. I heard it was a dozen or so. The inmates shared the news they got from the guards. Really? They still haven't caught him? How is that possible? Does number 37 really have that much strength? I've seen that number 37, he shouldn't be that strong, right? What kind of mutant power does he have, to kill so many people? Chapter 31. Here's the winner. All the prisoners, both regular and mutant, showed expressions of shock. They had been discussing and betting on when prisoner 37 would be caught. Most believed he would be apprehended within a day or two, but now they were informed that the very person they had been gossiping about, the one they were eagerly anticipating to be captured, not only escaped but also killed a group of people chasing him. That strong? How could he be that strong? Nearly 100 prisoners found it hard to believe and felt incredulous. At this moment, a prisoner named Claude shouted, "You must be joking. Does 37 have that kind of power? Are you messing with us? Even I, number 20, wouldn't dare claim I could kill several armed guys." The prisoners all nodded in agreement, feeling that Claude's words made sense. In an instant, many skeptical eyes turned to the person who had revealed the news. Even the freckled young man who had spoken to Syd before now found it hard to believe what he was hearing. "If you're going to lie, at least make it believable." Feeling the doubts, the informant, Jeffrey, became anxious and said, "Damn it, I swear I'm not lying." He explained, "I heard that number 37 has more than 5 mutant abilities, which allowed him to kill those pursuers." As soon as he finished speaking, the room fell silent, and everyone showed expressions of disbelief. At this moment, they thought Jeffrey must have lost his mind to say something so outrageous. More than 5 abilities? How could that be possible? It's not just the regular prisoners who didn't believe it, even the mutants scoffed, thinking it was impossible. How could someone have more than 5 abilities? Is that even a mutant? Mutants wondered why someone among them would be so special. Their disbelief didn't last long, as it was soon broken by another prisoner who had asked a friendly guard and received the same answer. Everyone was stunned. At the same time, they felt envy and jealousy. However, this feeling didn't last long and was soon replaced by schadenfreude and pity as another piece of news spread. Numbers 1 and 5, 2 monsters in special confinement and severely brainwashed, were being sent to capture number 37? Number 37 is done for. Those 2 are monsters, no one can beat them. Number 5 is unkillable, even if you smash his head, he won't die. And number 1 is even worse. Mentioning number 1, most of the mutant prisoners showed expressions of disgust, both fearful and eager to kill him. During the pulse interference, they didn't want to experience the feeling of being powerless again. Knowing these 2 were sent, the prisoners started betting on how long it would take to capture number 37. Most bet 3 days, a few bet a week, but none thought he could escape. Some even believed that fragile number 37 would die at the hands of numbers 1 and 5. While the prisoners were busy discussing, far away in a remote corner, Syd Castell was diligently practicing Sunshine. Sunshine Experience +1. Sunshine Experience +1. Sunshine Experience +1. With each practice session, the experience bar of Sunshine increased at a steady pace. As the sun began to set and the sky darkened, Syd stopped and looked at his status panel. Ability, Sunshine, 98/100, Level 1. Syd was initially pleased, then frowned. Just 2 more points. Sensing his internal energy, he hesitated. With his current energy, he could perform Sunshine 2 more times, but if I use it all, I'll have little light energy left. What if I encounter pursuers then? Syd shook his head, abandoning the idea of upgrading immediately. Since only 2 points were left, he could wait until the next morning. Thinking this, Syd felt a sense of anticipation. He left his current spot, looking for a hidden place to rest. The night passed quickly without any incidents. Photon energy +1. Photon energy +1. Photon energy +1. Groggy, Syd was awakened by the sound of notifications. Feeling the energy filling his body, he eagerly began to practice the reduced version of Sunshine. Sunshine Experience +1. Sunshine Experience +1. With the final notification, Syd Castell immediately felt a change within himself. Ability, Sunshine, 0/500, Level 2. A familiar warm current flowed through his body, causing an itchy sensation as if something was changing. When the feeling subsided, Syd found it easier to control the special sunlight of Sunshine. Looking up at the bright sky, he focused his mind. In the next moment, the sunlight within a 20-meter radius slightly distorted. Syd quickly stopped the action. About 20 meters, hey. Syd felt a bit disappointed. Despite his slight disappointment, compared to the level 1 sunshine, he could accept this improvement. At level 1, he could barely cover half a room, but now, he could cover 20 meters. And this 20 meters was based on his current energy levels. The maximum range of level 2 sunshine wasn't just 20 meters, his limited energy was holding him back from fully using it. When the black particles upgrade to level 3 and my energy increases, how much further will the range of sunshine extend? Syd's eyes gleamed with anticipation. Compared to levels 1 and 2, level 3 represented a qualitative change, bringing even more energy. As for now, sensing the gradually replenishing energy in his body, Syd silently estimated. Besides sunshine, he could use his other abilities around 50 times. If it was level 1 abilities, he could even use them over 100 times, enough to fight intensely for 2 or 3 minutes. Thinking about his level 1 abilities, Syd glanced at his status panel and found none remained at level 1, they had all been upgraded to level 2. Noticing the sparse energy points on the panel, his attention turned to the unlocking progress. Unlocking progress 79%. I wonder if reaching 80% will grant me new abilities. Flight or something else. Syd felt a surge of anticipation. Would the abilities obtained later be even more powerful? With this in mind, he decided not to continue practicing his abilities for now, planning to focus on reaching 80% unlocking progress first. Under the sunlight, a series of notifications echoed in his ears. Photon energy +1. Photon energy +1. Photon energy +1. Chapter 32. Check out my Patreon for +20 extra chapters on all my fanfics. $4.5 www.patreon.com/Zalum. Thank you for your support. Photon energy +1. Photon energy +1. Photon energy +1. With each notification, the energy points on the panel steadily increased. After some time, the energy points reached over 900. Energy points, 904. Glancing at it, Syd tried adding them to the unlocking progress. With anticipation in his eyes, the unlocking progress jumped to 80%. Unlocking progress 80%. However, to his disappointment, he did not hear any notification about a new ability. Nothing. Syd frowned. It seems like it needs to reach 85%. Syd was certain. Then, glancing at the depleted energy points, he sighed regretfully. To reach 85%, it would probably take at least 8,000 more energy points, which would require a lot of time. After a moment, he decided to focus on upgrading his abilities first. He aimed to upgrade the black particles to level 3, increase his internal photon energy, and improve his overall strength. As for acquiring new abilities, that could be postponed for a while. Though he was somewhat eager to obtain new abilities in the future. According to his thinking, the abilities awakened later should be more unique. Perhaps, once the mimicry reaches 100%, it will result in unimaginable changes. Syd thought with anticipation. Black particle experience +1. Black particle experience +1. Black particle experience +1. Ability, Black particle, 60/500, level 2. While he was diligently practicing black particles, a group of people started targeting him. On the rooftop of a 6-story hotel. Boss, are we really going to take on this mission? That mutant seems hard to deal with. If we really go up against him, I'm afraid. A burly man in blue clothes with a scar on his face hesitated as he spoke to the muscular, broad-shouldered man with a fierce expression beside him. Albert glanced at his subordinate, Jack, with disdain. What are you afraid of? He's just a mutant, not a god. As long as we use sniper rifles from a distance, he won't even have time to react. Despite Albert's confidence, Jack still hesitated. At this moment, Albert's voice turned serious. Besides, we've already accepted the mission. If we don't complete it, we'll face punishment. Hearing this, Jack shuddered at the thought of failure's consequences. He quickly shook off his hesitation, his eyes filling with determination. Soon, greed appeared in his eyes. Recently, a bounty had appeared on the dark web. Anyone who killed the target on the bounty would receive $3 million. $3 million! With that money, both he and Albert could live in luxury for a long time. The target on the bounty was a 16-year-old boy named Kevin. Though the boy was young, for $3 million, they would send him to his death with little remorse. Furthermore, the boy was far from ordinary. The abilities described on the bounty alone were enough to make them shiver. In short, he was a mutant with terrifying killing abilities. Glancing at a hidden corner in the distance, Jack's eyes lit up with excitement. They had spent a lot of effort tracking down this boy. If not for the previous battle and some luck, they might never have found him. This kid is really good at hiding, making our boss work hard. Complaining for a moment, he then said excitedly, but it's almost over. Soon, it will be time to reap the rewards. Boss, you're right. He's just a mutant, not a god. As long as he gets shot, he'll die. With sniper rifles, they could easily kill the boy and claim the $3 million. The two men took out sniper rifle parts from their backpacks and began assembling them. As they were assembling, Jack, observing through a telescope, noticed something unusual. It seemed another group was targeting the boy. This couldn't be allowed. Boss, look, 3 people are coming. What do we do? They seem to be here to kill the boy too. If they get him first, we... Jack said anxiously. Albert paused, extending his strong arm to take the telescope from Jack and look at the distance. He saw 3 people approaching the boy's hiding place, their mouths moving as if shouting something. Albert frowned, then relaxed and smiled. Let them fight each other. When they're both exhausted, we'll take over. Hearing this, Jack's anxiety faded, replaced by excitement as he anticipated the scene. In the distance. Come out, we know you're in there. A thick voice echoed. Hearing the voice outside, Syd was startled and walked out from his hiding place, puzzled. Who are you? Seeing 2 white men and a black woman, Syd asked cautiously. The black woman, in her 30s with a fierce expression, stepped forward and glared at him. We're from the Mutant Underground Organization. Did you kill Carl Panna? Syd instantly understood everything. Before he could say anything, the black woman sneered. Don't deny it. We know it was you. You're a ruthless kid. Just come with us and face the leader's punishment. She suddenly opened her mouth, emitting an ear-piercing scream. Buzz. The sound wave, moving at the speed of sound, rushed toward Syd. Despite his quick reaction, he was momentarily caught off guard. The screeching sound echoed in his ears, making him momentarily deaf. All other sounds disappeared, leaving only the buzzing. Spatial shift experience +1. In less than a second, his figure blurred, instantly disappearing from the original spot and reappearing 10 meters away, escaping the sound waves' range. Where he had stood, the sound waves continued to crash, causing dust to rise as a wall shook and crumbled to the ground. The terror of the sound waves was evident. 10 meters away, Syd stumbled, covering his still buzzing, slightly bleeding ears, his eyes flashing with killing intent. Suddenly, he saw one of the white men emitting red light, his skin oozing magma-like substances, distorting the surrounding air with heat. The other man disappeared in a flash. Already on alert, Syd's instincts screamed danger, and he used spatial shift again without hesitation. Spatial shift experience +1. As he vanished, the spot where he had been was occupied by the white youth who had disappeared. The youth held a sharp dagger, poised to strike. Ran away. Kerbin looked surprised. Speedster. Syd first frowned, then sighed in relief. Chapter 33. Luckily, this guy wasn't as fast as Quicksilver or the Flash, otherwise, he might have taken me out in an instant. With his current strength, he wasn't yet at the level where he could easily handle speedsters. Even the progenitor mutant Apocalypse had no solution against Quicksilver's speed. If not for his self-healing ability and quick neural response, which allowed him to use his powers to lock Quicksilver's feet, he might have been killed. Of course, while this guy wasn't as fast as Quicksilver, he was still very fast, likely approaching the speed of sound, but just a bit slower when attacking. Syd kept a close eye on his opponent's movements. The moment the guy moved, he would use spatial shift. He wasn't idle, though. These 3 had caught him off guard, but if he didn't fight back now, he'd be a fool. Did they think he was so easy to bully? The next second, his figure blurred and disappeared from his original spot. Spatial shift experience +1. Spatial shift experience +1. With 2 consecutive spatial shifts, he appeared beside the black woman. The moment he appeared, his fingers touched her chest. Divine Finger. Divine Finger experience +1. Bang. In an instant, the mirror space shattered, and the black woman screamed, a large hole appearing in her chest. The next second, she flew backward. At the same time, a shrill scream escaped her mouth, making everyone, including Syd, instinctively cover their ears. Sound waves swept around, causing buildings to tremble and collapse. In the chaos, the screams of innocent victims could be heard. Spatial Shift Experience +1. Spatial Shift Experience +1. Syd flashed to a distant spot, watching the destructive sound waves with a lingering fear. Dust filled the air, and various buildings collapsed. It was truly terrifying. He hadn't expected the black woman to unleash such power before dying. Was this a loss of control over her ability? Syd knew that mutants could be unreasonable at times. Normally weak, if they lost control, their danger level could skyrocket. This woman's ability was already formidable, and now that she had lost control, it made sense that she would explode with such power. Regardless, she was definitely dead. Without self-healing or defensive abilities, a single divine finger was enough to send her to the crematorium. In the distance, watching this scene through binoculars, Jack and Albert instinctively swallowed. Damn, this was too terrifying. Seeing the sound waves wreak havoc in the distance, toppling houses and sending people flying with blood spurting, the two men shivered. If they had been on site, they would have been killed instantly. Mutants are indeed monsters. Jack thought in fear. Especially the boy who had killed a mutant with ease. He terrified them. Of course, the outcome of the battle was still uncertain. Although one person was dead, the other side had a speedster. If Syd made one mistake, he could die too. Inga. The two white men looked at the dying Inga on the wall and turned their furious eyes toward Syd. I'm going to kill you. Marco roared, his body emitting magma. In an instant, he hurled a large mass of magma. Syd watched the incoming magma with a calm expression, his figure flashing and disappearing from the spot. Spatial Shift Experience +1. Black Particle Experience +1. Black Particle Experience +1. Black Particle Experience +1. 3 black particles appeared, flying towards Marco like bullets. Ah! Unable to dodge, Marco's arm was grazed by a black particle, instantly losing a chunk of flesh. Spatial Shift Experience +1. Seeing the speedster disappear, Syd immediately vanished from his spot. Spiritual Light Beam Experience +1. Instead of attacking the speedster, the next second, a spiritual light beam erupted from beneath Marco's feet. With a scream, Marco flew backward, blood splattering. Marco! Kurban's eyes turned red as he glared at Syd. You just wait. Kurban's figure blurred and disappeared. Spatial Shift Experience +1. Syd appeared on the rooftop, surprised to find that the guy hadn't attacked but had chosen to leave. He's retreating. Surprised, Syd didn't chase after him. Not that he could catch him even if he tried. Even at full attention, he could only see the guy's after image. Without careful focus, he could easily lose sight of him, and spatial shift wouldn't help. Moreover, facing a speedster, Syd didn't dare get too close. Even during the battle, he had kept a safe distance, allowing time to react. If he got too close, even with spatial shift, he worried he might get killed in return. Unless he awakened self-healing abilities, he wouldn't be able to fight recklessly like Wolverine or Deadpool. Thinking this, Syd didn't let his guard down. His figure blurred and disappeared from the spot. Spatial Shift Experience +1. Spatial Shift Experience +1. In the distance. Seeing the mutant boy disappear, Jack put down the binoculars, swallowing nervously. Boss, are we still going after him? Looking at the chaotic battlefield in the distance, like it had been plowed by bombs, cold sweat broke out on his back. Albert gritted his teeth, saying, "What's there to fear? He's just a mutant. As long as he can't react." As he spoke, his voice weakened, clearly realizing the consequences if they failed to kill him instantly, and he fought back. "Let's go, chase him." In the end, Albert couldn't resist the lure of $3 million. He called out to Jack, packed up, and ran in the direction the boy had left. As Syd and the two men left, alarms sounded in a lab base 10 kilometers away. "Hurry, we can't let that symbiote escape." A team of fully armed security guards rushed towards the corridor. Bang bang bang! Countless bullets rained down ahead. In front, a middle-aged man with a blank expression ran frantically, his agility more like a cheetah than a human. Thud, 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 bullets pierced flesh. These damned humans! A hoarse, enraged voice emerged from the man's body. Amidst the whistling wind, faint complaints could be heard. Weak carbon-based life forms. These humans are so frail. Isn't there anyone stronger? Are they all this fragile? The sound of gunfire, accompanied by chaotic footsteps, echoed in the area. Chapter 34. Under the bright sunlight. Bang! 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 Bullets whizzed through the air, aimed at the fleeing figure at the speed of sound. However, despite being hit multiple times, even in the head, they had no effect. The middle-aged man, enduring the gunfire, escaped from the base at a speed surpassing that of an ordinary person. Oh, shit! Watching the middle-aged man gradually disappear, the armed guards looked grim, with some cursing under their breath. The Life Foundation was in an uproar, with vehicles speeding out to chase the escaping man. Half an hour later. Weak humans. Controlling the man riding the stolen motorcycle, Venom's hoarse voice was full of complaints. He could feel that this body was reaching its limit and would soon die. At that point, he would have to crawl out of this body. If he couldn't find a new host that could adapt to Earth's environment, he would soon perish. Not wanting to die, he quickly took action. His black, sludge-like body split into two parts, with the larger one taking up 90% and the smaller one taking up 10%. The motorcycle roared, the wind howling past. The larger part of Venom's body squirmed out of the middle-aged man's chest, then, seizing the moment, leaped toward a strong man in his 30s or 40s walking on the sidewalk. Oh, hell, what is this? Walking down the corridor, forced by his boss to go to the Life Foundation for an interview, Eddie saw a black mass flying towards him and cursed. Before he could brush off the sticky thing, it seeped into his skin and vanished. What the hell? Eddie Brock was shocked, feeling like he wanted to dissect himself. He searched his body but found nothing. As he panicked, a hoarse voice came from within him. Shut up! Ignoring Eddie's stunned reaction, Venom marveled internally. I don't think there's a better host than this one. After parasitizing this human, Venom was surprised to find that this body was highly compatible with him. He had never experienced such compatibility in all his parasitic endeavors on Earth. Previous human test subjects would die because they couldn't sustain him, their organs failing over time. But this guy, Eddie, had a body that greatly satisfied him, making him believe he couldn't find a better one. While Venom was pleased, Eddie was panicking. Meanwhile, the middle-aged man on the motorcycle continued to speed away. He was meant to divert the pursuers for Venom. He didn't care about the small part of Venom left in the man's body. That part would probably be found by the Life Foundation and locked in a lab. While Venom considered how to communicate with Eddie, the middle-aged man 2 kilometers away was surrounded by Life Foundation agents. Bang! 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 Bullets and tranquilizer darts rained down on him. Soon, the middle-aged man fell to the ground. I got him, one of the black-suited men said into his walkie-talkie. Bring him back. A voice replied excitedly. Roger that. The black-suited men lifted the middle-aged man into a car and headed back to the Life Foundation. In their haste, they didn't notice a thumb-sized blob of black liquid seeping from the man's finger and rolling into a nearby sewer grate. In the dark sewer, Venom squirmed, feeling increasingly anxious. He knew that if he didn't find a host soon, this weak body would die. He didn't want to die. From the moment he separated, he became an independent entity, despite still being connected to the larger part. Quickly, he sensed something and leaped onto a grey rat. The rat's beady eyes glowed eerily as it swiftly scurried through the sewer. He needed to find a compatible host quickly. Damn you, you'll regret abandoning me. I'll make you regret it. While the situation with Venom caused chaos, several kilometers away, Syd was practicing black particles. Black particle experience +1. Black particle experience +1. Black particle experience +1. After an hour of practice, Syd suddenly stopped. A notification abruptly appeared in his mind. Hidden in an unseen corner, a hunter is aiming at you, seemingly preparing to kill. Syd's face changed slightly, and he instinctively used spatial shift. Spatial shift experience +1. Appearing 10 meters away, he looked back at where he had been standing. Thud. A long bullet embedded itself deeply into the ground. Another sniper. Syd's face darkened. The next second, he followed the direction from which the bullet had come. 200 meters away was a 3-story building. Spatial shift experience +1. He disappeared from his spot again. By now, he had a good idea of where the sniper was located. As he moved towards the building, Jack and Albert, hiding inside, began to panic. "What do we do, boss? He found us. Run!" Albert didn't even bother with the sniper rifle, turning and bolting. Jack hesitated for a moment, then hurried after him. A few minutes later, they were sprinting down a dark corridor. "Should be safe now, right?" Looking around and seeing no one following, Jack sighed in relief. But just then, a figure appeared before them. "Who are you? Who sent you to assassinate me?" Syd asked coldly. As he spoke, he raised his right hand, black particles floating around it, ready to be fired at any moment. "Wait, we'll talk." Panicking, Jack quickly said, "We're assassins. We took a dark web contract to kill you." "Dark web?" Syd was taken aback. He was familiar with the dark web, having heard about it in his previous life. Beneath the surface internet lay the dark web, where illegal transactions often took place. This assassination was likely ordered by someone on the dark web and carried out by these unlucky hitmen. Chapter 35. "Do you know anything about your employer?" Syd asked with a frown. Jack shook his head. Syd pondered for a moment, quickly suspecting who might be behind this. The people from the experimental base. He didn't bother to think further. It could only be a few individuals, and he would have his chance to get back at them eventually. As he moved his fingers, ready to send a black particle into each of these two, a faint noise came from not far away. Syd turned to look, puzzled. He saw an orange cat meowing and approaching him. At first, he didn't pay much attention and was about to continue his action. But before he could make a move, the cat's unusual behavior caught his eye. A shadow flickered in the cat's yellow eyes, and a small blob of black liquid oozed from its forehead. In Syd's peripheral vision, he saw the black substance leap from the cat and land on his right hand. Syd was shocked at first, then quickly realized what it was. Venom. His mind raced, recalling what he knew about this thing. An alien organism, a symbiote, that needed to attach to other organisms to survive on Earth. Once bonded with a host, it could unleash incredible power. The most famous instance was when it attached to Spider-Man, forming a Venom suit that led to Peter's dark transformation. Of course, there were several versions of Venom, and he wasn't sure if this one was the same as the one that bonded with Spider-Man. But regardless, bonding with this thing wasn't all benefits, there were drawbacks too. Syd didn't dare take this lightly. Seeing venom on his hand and even seeping into his arm, he panicked and instinctively drove his internal photon energy to counter it. Ah! A faint scream came from his arm as venom was forced out by the burning light energy. Watching this from a distance, Jack and Albert were stunned. The venom, burned by the photon energy, was equally shocked. Initially, it thought it had just found an ordinary human, but then, no. At first, it had a casual attitude, thinking it could use this boy's body for a while. But when it entered the boy's body, it was completely astonished. It felt an unprecedented power. This boy's body was different from ordinary people. Not only did his cells contain mysterious unknown factors, but his flesh also had a special energy attached to it. It had a sunny quality, giving Venom a warm feeling. Of course, that was before the boy activated his energy. Once activated, all Venom felt was a burning sensation, forcing it to leave his body. Even though it was only a brief fusion, Venom felt a comfort it had never experienced before. That feeling made it crave more. The sensation of being filled with power was intoxicating. Filled with urgency, Venom wanted to re-enter the boy's body. But before it could act, Syd frowned and spoke, "Venom." Venom paused in surprise, its small head morphing and asking, "Human, how do you know my name?" "An alien life form." Syd continued, "A symbiote." "You?" Venom was both puzzled and shocked at having its origins exposed. It swore it didn't know this boy, and he shouldn't know about Venom or symbiotes. Nearby, Jack and Albert, still in shock, looked at the black liquid, hearing Syd's words. An alien life form. What the hell is going on in this world? They were in disbelief. "Human, how do you know so much? Who are you?" Venom asked in astonishment. Syd calmly replied, "I know more than just your name. I know a lot about symbiotes. But never mind how I know. Now, leave my body, or don't blame me for being rude." Venom, initially stunned by the information, quickly regained its composure, urgently saying, "No, no, human, don't drive me away. I'm Venom. I'm a symbiote. Bond with me, human." Syd shook his head. Venom grew more desperate. "Please, together we'll be the strongest, the most powerful. No one can defeat us. We will become kings." "Stay away from me," Syd said, frowning, grabbing the sticky substance and throwing it far away. But as soon as he threw it, the substance wriggled back towards him like a desperate puppy. "No, don't abandon me, please, human," Venom pleaded, its tiny face full of desperation. Chapter 36. Watching the pleading Venom clinging to him like sticky candy, Syd felt a bit helpless. If this creature had shown aggression, he would have dealt with it immediately, but its groveling made it harder to handle. He temporarily shifted his attention and looked at Jack and Albert. "No, no, don't kill us." Noticing Syd's gaze, Jack hurriedly begged for mercy. Syd glanced at their terrified faces but ignored their pleas. Since they had intended to kill him for the bounty, their deaths were their own fault. In the next second, with Jack and Albert looking on in terror and Venom in surprise, black waves surged in Syd's hand. Black particle experience +1. Black particle experience +1. 2 black particles shot out like bullets towards Jack and Albert. Alert, they dodged to the side, avoiding the first 2 particles. Black particle experience +1. No matter how much they tried to dodge, they couldn't escape the next 4 black particles and were struck in the chest. Blood flowed, and as he lay dying, Albert cursed, "You'll come to hell to find us soon enough. Killing us won't end it. Your bounty will keep rising, and stronger people will come after you. Hope you don't meet the top-ranked assassins, or else." Albert gave a bitter laugh before he stopped breathing, and Jack soon followed after uttering his own curses. Seeing them dead, Venom quickly spoke up, "Human, don't worry about their words. If you and I merge, everything can be solved. We can tear apart anyone in our way." Finally, his small black face was full of pleading, "Please, human, merge with me. We will be the strongest." Listening to Venom's incessant chatter, Syd felt a headache coming on. Eliminating it would be troublesome, and if he threw it away, it would likely come back. After a moment of thought, he decided to negotiate with Venom. "Merging completely with you is not an option," Syd said slowly. Venom's black face filled with disappointment, but before he could continue pleading, Syd said something that surprised him. "However, I can let you merge with my right hand. If you agree and can manage that." Syd looked calmly at Venom. He had thought this through. Venom wasn't entirely bad, there were obvious benefits to merging with it. If it was just his right arm, he could agree to that. As for a full-body merge, he outright rejected the idea. A complete merge meant Venom would be inside his body, which could cause trouble if it acted up. Moreover, a full merge meant Venom would have access to his brain, and without mental abilities, it might learn his memories, which Syd could not accept. But if it was just his right arm, any problems wouldn't be severe. Even if Venom tried something, his internal photon energy would alert him immediately. Venom would have to get past the photon energy first. "I warn you, if you go beyond my right arm." Before Syd could finish his warning, Venom excitedly interrupted, "Human, I agree." Venom's black liquid body immediately jumped onto Syd's right arm and quickly seeped in. Syd didn't feel much, only sensing something entering his arm and feeling a presence there. He had the sense that he could expel Venom at any time if he wanted to. Aside from that, there was no discomfort. "Symbiotes are really special," Syd muttered to himself. While Syd was adjusting, Venom inside him was also exploring. It had only merged for a second or two before, but now, almost fully merged, it could feel the difference completely. "Human, you are unique, powerful. I've never seen anything like you." Venom was filled with awe. If other humans were weak and fragile, this one was different, unique. The warm energy like sunlight, the mysterious unknown cells. All of it gave Venom unprecedented power. It felt stronger than ever. It felt full of energy, replenishing its depleted reserves rapidly. In its excitement, it instinctively tried to use its symbiote power to replicate the host's abilities. But something unexpected happened. Venom was shocked to find it couldn't replicate this host's mysterious cellular factors. "Damn, I've never seen anything like this!" Venom exclaimed. What was going on? Besides that, it discovered something unbelievable. These mysterious cells were actually eroding it. Threads of mysterious power appeared, slowly altering it. Venom was questioning its existence. It had always been the one to erode others, and now it was being eroded? Was it the symbiote, or was this boy the real symbiote? Venom's feelings fluctuated, but ultimately, it couldn't bear to leave this human's body. This host was too perfect, unlike any other it had ever encountered. Besides that, it unexpectedly discovered that although it couldn't clone the mysterious cellular factors, it could absorb sunlight. Syd's arm extended a black liquid tendril. As sunlight hit the tendril, it felt warm, and its depleted energy seemed to replenish. Venom was overjoyed. In its excitement, the tendril transformed into a small black head. "This is amazing!" Venom shouted in delight. Then, excitedly, it said, "You are special, unlike any ordinary human. It's like you're not even the same species. I've never seen anything so." It became incoherent. Syd looked at it in surprise and asked, learning the general situation. Absorbing sunlight wasn't a big deal, probably due to the energy absorption ability. Mysterious factor in the cells. Syd instantly thought of sunshine. Chapter 37. Whether it was when he awakened sunshine or when it leveled up, Syd could always feel a warm current flowing through his body, likely altering his cells at that time. He wasn't surprised that Venom couldn't clone this. After all, sunshine was an Omega-level ability, and it was derived from mimicking this power. It was normal for Venom to have trouble with it. Venom's inability to sense the mimicry of this mysterious power from the start was also within Syd's expectations. If Venom had discovered something, that would have been surprising. After thinking it through, Syd looked at Venom's small black head and asked, "What abilities do you have?" Although he had some knowledge, he wanted to be sure to avoid any mistakes. Quickly, with Venom's explanation, he sorted out Venom's other abilities. In addition to shape-shifting, Venom could repair the host's damaged body. Venom's physical and extraordinary resistances were also very high. There were other abilities, such as allowing the host to breathe underwater. Syd focused on the shape-shifting and body repair abilities. He raised his right hand and tried to control Venom. In the next second, his right hand transformed from flesh to a black liquid, then solidified into a giant sword. With a thought, Syd changed the sword into a shield, and then into gloves and other forms. With a bang, his right hand, now in the shape of a hammer, smashed into the ground. After the loud noise, a small pit appeared on the ground. "It's like the material turned into metal," Syd marveled. As for the body repair ability, he looked at his body but didn't dare to test it out. Moreover, with Venom only inhabiting my right hand, it can't repair other parts of my body. Syd shook his head. Of course, he wasn't going to let Venom fully merge with him either. While he was experimenting, Venom excitedly said, "Human, how about it? Pretty good, right? I'm the best. With you, it's even better. We're the strongest. No one can stop us." Syd smiled slightly, "The world isn't as simple as you think." Venom looked puzzled. Then, with a curious expression, Venom asked, "Human, is absorbing sunlight and shooting that black stuff your ability?" "You'll find out later. We need to leave here now. And call me Syd." Syd started walking away. "Syd, don't waste it. Let me eat those two humans' brains." With a slurp, Venom licked its sharp teeth, eyes longing as it stared at the two corpses. Shaking his head as he walked, Syd replied, "No." Even though it didn't involve his mouth, he still felt nauseated at the thought of brains entering his body. As they walked, Syd looked at Venom's small form, puzzled. "What's with your body? Why are you so small?" In all the Spider-Man and Eddie versions, Venom was never this small. It looked somewhat juvenile, much smaller in size. Venom paused and its black face turned fierce, angrily saying, "That damn bastard dared to abandon me. I'll definitely get revenge." Listening to its story, Syd understood what had happened and knew which version of Venom this was. The Life Foundation, hey. He frowned, thinking, has the plot changed? According to Venom's story, this was the plot of the movie Venom, Lethal Protector. The Life Foundation conducted space exploration and brought back several symbiotes from a meteorite, one of which was Venom. To complete the symbiosis experiments with humans, the Life Foundation's owner conducted a series of cruel human experiments. A journalist named Eddie Brock went to investigate an interview, and after a series of events, he took Venom from the lab and formed a perfect symbiosis. Faced with Eddie, who had taken the symbiote, the Life Foundation launched a series of pursuits. Syd frowned. From what Venom said, it wasn't Eddie who took Venom from the lab. Is this because of my influence? Syd pondered. Of course, the most important thing was that if the plot progressed as expected, the Life Foundation would likely launch a rocket to retrieve the meteorite containing millions of symbiotes. At that point, he shared this information with Venom, shocking it. Syd, how do you know so much about the Life Foundation? Not only about the Life Foundation, but this mysterious human seemed to know everything about symbiotes too. At this moment, Venom was deeply suspicious. What was going on? After thinking for a long time, its small head couldn't figure out why this human named Syd knew so much, and even seemed to predict the future. After a while, Venom suddenly said seriously, "We must stop them. We can't let the Life Foundation bring my fellow symbiotes to Earth." Syd looked at it, as if knowing everything, and said, "Are you afraid of them?" Venom quickly shook its head, "No, I just don't want Earth to fall into their hands. Besides..." It glanced at Syd, its eyes filled with excitement and murderous intent. "Just the two of us are enough. We're the strongest, we don't need those guys getting in the way." Syd pondered for a moment. He was hesitant about going. If the plot progressed as expected, Eddie should successfully prevent the symbiote's arrival, with or without his involvement. What if my influence changes things? Syd wondered. He wasn't worried about people dying, but about the million symbiotes arriving on Earth, which could alter many plot developments, erasing his advantage of foresight. After thinking for a long time, he decided to check it out. Looking at Venom, he said, "You know where the Life Foundation is, right? Take me there." Venom's eyes lit up with excitement. As it guided Syd's right hand towards the Life Foundation, its face turned fierce. "Don't let me find you, or I'll make you pay." The guy it was talking about was, of course, the other half that abandoned it. "Just the two of us are the strongest." Venom's eyes were filled with excitement and anticipation, eager for the upcoming confrontation. Chapter 38. Syd followed Venom's directions as he walked. During this journey, he chose to walk in hidden areas as much as possible, not forgetting that he was still being hunted. Along the way, he couldn't help but notice how many thugs there were in America. He ended up collecting a few $100s in relief funds and a black hoodie with a hood. With the black hood covering his head, he exuded a hint of mystery as he walked through the secluded streets. "Syd, why are you being so cautious? I think we should go all out instead of hiding like this." Venom communicated telepathically with Syd, its hoarse voice tinged with confusion. Syd shook his head. "Maybe when we get there, but for now, we need to stay hidden while traveling. There are people hunting me." With that, he ignored Venom's puzzled questions and focused on moving quickly. Occasionally, as the sunlight touched him, his energy points slowly increased. Photon energy +1. Photon energy +1. Photon energy +1. As Syd made his way to the Life Foundation, Eddie Brock was having a struggle with Venom. "Eddie, this is an illusion. It's not real. You're just feeling a little unwell." Walking down the street, Eddie tried to ignore the voice in his head, convincing himself it was a hallucination. Then, the strange voice in his mind spoke again. "Eddie Brock, stop pretending. You know it's all real." Ignoring Eddie's self-deception, Venom continued, "Human, listen to me. You should stay away from the Life Foundation. Don't go there." Unable to ignore the voice in his head, Eddie cursed, "Shit, it's my job." As he spoke, Eddie suddenly felt a wave of hunger. Swallowing, he looked at the people walking by, feeling an urge to devour their brains. He felt like he was going crazy, trying to ignore the impulse, thinking it was just the parasite affecting him. However, the more he ignored the hunger, the stronger it became. The voice in his head spoke again. "Human, stop. It's time to eat. See those delicious brains? Go and devour them." Eddie Brock clutched his head, trying to ignore the hunger, but he failed. To escape the thoughts of eating people's brains and the feeling of hunger, he rushed into a steakhouse and quickly ordered. Unable to wait, he grabbed food meant for others and started eating, causing chaos. People screamed. While Eddie was adjusting to the symbiote, the Life Foundation had realized they had been tricked by the symbiote. They were urgently checking all abnormalities along the escape route, trying to locate the fleeing symbiote. Security guards with communicators searched the streets. Soon, the commotion around Eddie Brock caught the attention of the guards. Found an anomaly, checking it out. A black security guard reported into his communicator before entering the restaurant and approaching Eddie, who was gnawing on a live lobster from a tank. "Sir, please come with me," the guard, Thomas, politely requested. But Eddie, consumed by his hunger, ignored him and continued eating. Thomas's face darkened, and he reached out to grab Eddie, trying to take him away. Before he could touch Eddie, he was pushed back several steps by Eddie's right hand. Thomas's face grew more stern, and he instinctively reached for his baton to teach this uncooperative and suspicious person a lesson. As he raised his baton, Eddie's right hand, covered in black liquid, punched him hard in the chest. Bang! Amid the gasps of the onlookers, Thomas was sent flying several meters, crashing into a row of tables and chairs. Seeing this, Eddie, still somewhat conscious, hurriedly explained, "Oh, I didn't mean to. My hand, it's not listening." With the staff shouting, Eddie panicked and fled the restaurant. Struggling to his feet, Thomas urgently reported into his communicator, "Target found." While he was reporting, the fleeing Eddie was in a state of panic. "Coward, you should have eaten that guy." Venom's displeased voice echoed in his mind. Panicking, Eddie asked, "What are you?" "A parasite." He could no longer deceive himself. "Parasite." Venom repeated loudly, seemingly furious, "You are the parasite. I am Venom, the great symbiote Venom. And you need to get out of here now. Those people will capture you and conduct inhumane experiments on you. Run." Eddie still hadn't accepted reality. Just as he was about to argue, 4 black-suited guards appeared ahead. "Stop! Hands up!" The 4 guards pointed their guns at him. "Shit!" Eddie instinctively turned and ran. Seeing him run, the guards immediately fired their tranquilizer guns. Bang! 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 Black tendrils emerged from Eddie's back, blocking the tranquilizer darts. Then, with a swift movement, the tendrils knocked the guns out of the guards' hands. The guards were stunned by what they saw. More guards surrounded Eddie, and in the ensuing chaos, Eddie displayed a series of astonishing abilities. He performed many inhuman actions and had a sense of danger that helped him avoid many attacks. The black tendrils easily knocked away enemies, and even the black liquid shifted into a venom suit covering him. As he charged through, guards screamed as they were sent flying. Some unlucky ones were grabbed by Venom, who then devoured their brains. "Stop him! Don't let him escape!" While the guards surrounded Eddie and Venom, the people at the Life Foundation were watching the footage in shock. In the conference room, Drake spread his arms, pointing at the screen, and exclaimed, "He merged with the symbiote, do you see?" Turning to the staff and researchers, he praised, "Did you see? They merged. Tries." He rushed to the communicator and urgently instructed the lead guard on the video, "Bring my new creature back." Chapter 39. After giving his orders, Drake watched Eddie on the screen, showcasing his incredible combat abilities, and commented, "This is the perfect life form. Look at the perfection, the incredible strength, the incredible defense, and the incredible speed. I have never seen such a perfect life form. He has achieved a truly perfect symbiosis with the symbiote." Drake continued to praise. Among the dozen or so people watching the screen, some began to chime in. "Mr. Drake, you're right." A middle-aged man in a white coat agreed. "This man's compatibility with the symbiote is incredibly high, completely different from the failed experiments. This is the perfect symbiosis. I don't think we'll find a more perfect symbiote than this. We must bring this man back safely. We need the data from his body." Ralph's eyes gleamed with desire. No one understood better than these researchers how important this perfect symbiote was. He had never seen a more perfect symbiosis than this one. Previous human experiments had all resulted in immediate death, and even the rare survivors had rapidly deteriorating organs and soon died. None of them had displayed the inhuman transformations and power seen on the screen. Even the briefly surviving test subjects showed no more strength than ordinary people. Otherwise, they would have displayed their power and escaped the lab long ago instead of being confined for observation. The researchers around him nodded in agreement and amazement. While they marveled at Eddie's perfect life form, Eddie had already evaded his pursuers and returned home. Opening the fridge, he grabbed some raw meat and began to eat. As his hunger subsided, Eddie regained his clarity. "What did I do?" he said irritably. At that moment, there was a loud banging on his door. Bang! The door was kicked open. A group of black-suited guards rushed in, immediately firing their tranquilizer guns at him. Venom quickly emerged from Eddie's body, its black form shielding him from the darts. In the next second, the Venom suit covered Eddie. "Hey, wait, we can talk this out." Eddie tried to explain, but Venom, controlling his body, didn't stop. His right hand transformed into a black tendril, which lashed out at the guards. Grabbing one, Venom pulled him close and delivered a powerful punch with its black left hand. In an instant, the guard was knocked unconscious. Venom leaped into the crowd, knocking them out one by one like they were children. Thomas, the bald guard at the back, spoke into his walkie-talkie with fear, "We can't handle him. He's too strong." At the Life Foundation. Watching the battle, Drake frowned and asked, "Is there any way?" A male researcher hesitated before stepping forward, "We can try sound waves." All eyes turned to him. The researcher explained, "Experiments show that symbiotes are highly sensitive to sound waves, which can cause them pain and separate them from their hosts. We can equip our men with sonic weapons to turn him back into an ordinary man." Drake frowned slightly, feeling a bit disappointed that his perfect life form had a flaw. Despite this, he quickly gave the order to prepare the sonic weapons. "Retreat for now." Drake spoke into the communicator. Soon, the guards withdrew, leaving a confused Eddie. "They left," Eddie said, puzzled. Venom emerged from his body, its large head looking fierce. "Don't be complacent. They won't give up. We should leave here." Eddie's heart pounded, nearly making him weak at the knees from the sudden appearance of this creature. After a brief exchange, he accepted the reality of being hunted. He rummaged through his things, quickly gathering useful items to take with him. 10 minutes later, he ran downstairs, hopped on a motorcycle, and sped away from the Life Foundation. Unfortunately, he hadn't gone far before he was noticed by his pursuers. A distant gunshot rang out, and a bullet punctured his speeding motorcycle's tire. Eddie tumbled to the ground, sustaining multiple bruises and fractures. Thomas and his team slowly approached. With a smile, Thomas said, "You're quite a troublemaker, Eddie." Lying on the ground, Eddie looked panicked, "I was trying to please you." Thomas ignored him and prepared to fire more tranquilizer darts to immobilize him completely. But then, something that shocked both Thomas and Drake happened. Black liquid oozed from Eddie's body, quickly repairing the damage and even resetting his broken bones. Eddie stood up swiftly, the Venom suit covering him again. "Oh my god!" Thomas and his team were stunned. Watching the monitor, Drake exclaimed, "Incredible!" Thomas's team panicked and tried to shoot, but it was useless. Venom grabbed one guard and bit off his head in one gulp. "Hey, we can talk this out, Eddie." Facing the advancing Eddie, Thomas backed away, terrified. "Nothing to discuss, human." Venom grabbed him, examining him closely. Venom's long tongue licked Thomas's face, leaving a trail of saliva. Eyes, lungs, pancreas, all very tasty. Venom opened its toothy maw, about to swallow Thomas's head whole. But a distant gunshot interrupted it. Venom paused, turning to look at the shooter, its face growing fierce. Just as it was about to charge, a piercing sonic wave filled the area. Buzz! No! Venom released Thomas, falling to its knees in pain. Within seconds, the Venom suit retracted, leaving Eddie in his original form. Surrounded by the sonic waves, Thomas coughed a few times and slowly approached Eddie. In a low voice, he taunted, "Eddie, why don't you show off some more?" Facing the guns pointed at him, Eddie fell into despair. "Parasite, we're done for." Venom was equally desperate, struggling in vain against the sonic waves. At the Life Foundation. "Well done, Thomas." Drake smiled broadly, ordering, "Bring back the perfect symbiote, the most perfect creature I've ever seen." But as he smiled and Thomas extended his hand, and as Eddie and Venom despaired, footsteps echoed from nearby. A figure slowly approached. Chapter 40. Under the bright sunlight, a shadow approached slowly, walking towards the commotion. Hearing the sudden footsteps, everyone, including Eddie, turned to look. The newcomer wore a black hooded cloak, obscuring most of his face, and exuded an air of mystery. "Friend, this place is dangerous." "Stay back," Thomas warned in a low voice. But his warning was ignored, and the figure continued to approach. Instantly, Thomas and the others became alert, their guns subtly aimed at the figure, ready to fire if he came any closer. While they were on high alert, Venom, sensing something, showed a surprised expression. "This guy. He's not captured." Venom's voice reached Eddie, who instinctively asked, "You know him?" Eddie's question drew everyone's attention. Embarrassed by the stares, Eddie awkwardly said, "I didn't mean, you know what I mean." At this moment, Venom spoke again, clarifying for Eddie. "I can sense the other half of my body that I abandoned, it's inside this person." Then, Venom quickly explained the situation to Eddie. Understanding the explanation, Venom, controlling Eddie's body, spoke to the approaching figure under the watchful eyes of Drake and Thomas. "What are you doing here? To mock me? Let me see what kind of host you've chosen." Venom then scrutinized the mysterious figure, but finding nothing special, dismissed it, saying, "He looks ordinary to me." While Drake and the others were puzzled by the conversation, the mysterious figure stopped in a less affected area by the sonic waves. Suddenly, black liquid emerged from the figure's right arm, forming a small venom head. "My foolish other half, you'll regret abandoning me to distract the enemies. And he's not ordinary." Syd's Venom spoke in a hoarse voice. Venom, controlling Eddie, paused and then smiled smugly. "Really? I can't see anything special about him. But my host is the perfect host. There's no better body than this." Influenced by his words, Venom's voice, filled with pride, showed his satisfaction with Eddie as his host, genuinely believing no one could be more perfect. He thought the other half was just boasting, how could it have found a body comparable to Eddie's in such a short time? While they conversed, Drake and the others, analyzing the information, were both shocked and delighted. At the Life Foundation, Drake hurried to the communicator, his excitement evident as he instructed Thomas. "Thomas, quickly, capture this symbiote host as well." A satisfied smile spread across his face. Unexpectedly capturing another symbiote host? As for capturing him, Drake had no doubts. Before they had the sonic weapons, he might have hesitated, but now he had no concerns. He even thought the approaching symbiote host was foolish. Did he think having a symbiote made him invincible? This person was about to learn a hard lesson. Drake's smile grew wider, envisioning himself as the perfect life form after experimenting on the two captured subjects. Under the watchful eyes of the Life Foundation, Thomas and his men moved. Buzz! In the next second, men carrying sonic devices rushed over. Eddie grimaced in pain, and Syd was also enveloped by the special sonic waves. The venom on his hand showed a pained expression and instinctively retracted into Syd's right hand. Seeing this venom also affected by the sonic waves, Thomas and the observing Drake sighed in relief. "Raise your hands. We need you to come with us." Thomas aimed his black gun at Syd. As he felt victory was within grasp, something unexpected happened. The mysterious figure, who they thought had no power to resist, suddenly had a blue light emanate from his hand. Spiritual Light Beam Experience +1. In the next moment, a blue high-energy beam appeared, swiftly piercing through the approaching guard with the sonic device. The sonic device in the guard's hand was obliterated, along with a hole through his chest. "Ah!" A scream echoed, and the guard fell to the ground. "What is this?" Everyone present was shocked. Eddie's mouth hung open. Venom inside Eddie was stunned. Venom inside Syd was also taken aback. The smiles on the faces of Drake and the others at the Life Foundation disappeared. Thomas and the guards widened their eyes in horror, doubting what they had just witnessed. Hand firing a laser? Sensing the danger, Thomas instinctively pulled the trigger of his black gun. Bang! The silver bullet spun rapidly, heading towards its target. The sudden gunshot startled everyone. When they saw the bullet's target, they were even more shocked. The bullet was stopped by 2 fingers. Rebound Shield Experience +1. Divine Finger Experience +1. The sound of shattering glass echoed as the space around them cracked like a mirror. In slow motion, the silver bullet twisted under the immense impact, and space fragments cut deep grooves into it. In an instant, the bullet reversed direction with a swoosh, flying back. "Ah, my hand!" Thomas screamed. The deformed silver bullet shattered his gun, pierced his hand, and lodged into his elbow. Clutching his bleeding hand, Thomas was horrified. The others had similar expressions, all filled with fear. Staring at the hooded figure standing not far away, they felt a suffocating pressure. In just a few moments, the blue beam and the casual deflection of the bullet had put immense pressure on them. It felt like they were ants, and he was a god standing high above them. Who are you? Thomas, enduring the pain, asked. This isn't the symbiote's power. You. This question wasn't just his but everyone's. Eddie, possessed by venom, was strong enough, but compared to this guy, he was nothing. They even suspected this person could easily defeat Eddie. End of chapter.
Thanks for listening.